Hello, I haven't done a saloon since my wedding. How good to see you. Now, I've promised a lot tonight, so I'm not going to mess about. Fresh from our trip down memory lane and going all timey-wimey about Longleat 1983 on Sunday, the convention that everyone wished they'd been to, we jump, classic sense for your style, into a debate where no Whovian, no Doctor Who fan sits on the fence or even leans near a fence like the Watcher in Legopolis. Yesterday, as you may have seen, I posted an online poll with this topic, as you may see, yes. Now, I have the results, and they make for fascinating read and analysis. I have the views shared by many who took part, so I thank you, and you will see those comments. So please get your questions in and get your thoughts, because this is going to be so tasty. Now, remember, since lockdown, the series installments have been pared back, reduced as if the BBC budget constraints work as lethally as the Master's tissue compression eliminator. A 70s classic, Doctor Who, used to have 28 episodes or so. Troughton used to remark how they're on most of the blooming year with about 40-odd episodes. Then RTD had 13 episodes plus a Christmas special. Then it got reduced further. And now we've had 3 specials, 1 Christmas, 8 episodes, 2 Doctors like, aye. The Doctor's now gender fluid. The TARDIS can be duplicated with some Tinkerbell toy maker fairy dust and a fairground sledgehammer that could have been borrowed from Terror of the Autons. We have a companion soap plots rather than companions in peril adventures. We have an ever more emotional and romantic Doctor, now gain his current incarnation. We have the sonic screwdriver emasculated to some strange-looking sex toy because it is deemed too lethal to have as a toy. You have Davros permanently growing legs as well as a working central eye, as if the Cyclops had just been to Lourdes and become a miracle of virtue signalling twaddle from RTD himself. We have RTD ruling the roost like some imperious toy maker, making the Doctor a crybaby, indecisive, predatory, irresponsible, and therefore unreliable, and no hero you would follow or want to emulate. We are in the court of RTD, and that is the other issue here that comes into play. Yeah, the court of RTD. Look at this season we've just had. Nothing like that. So, if I just set us up before I kind of spoil, results coming any second now. So, we're in the court of RTD, as I said, and the political messaging and how it feels, nothing will prize him from full appropriation of Doctor Who into his own image. Sutek is now some time Snoopy, crapping time-turd capsules into the vortex, staying in the TARDIS windows with his urine. All because RTD had a dream like some pubescent, frustrated fan and wanted it on TV. Space babies, musical segments, breaking the fourth wall. Oh, I could go on. But that would make me sound like the Time Lord Victorious, all pompous and preachy. Cherish the thought, as RTD hates pomposity in the classic Doctors, he said. So shall we get to the results? Look at the comments, see what you think. This is about Doctor Who. This is about whether we continue, cancel, rest, or reboot. Okay? Now, to join me in this kind of festival of discussion, we've got Sean. Good to see you, Sean.
Hello, mate. You all right?
Are you dying to see the results?
Absolutely.
I was dying. I was watching them all the time, so I'm not going to delay anybody. So here we go with the results. Remember, the question was quite clear. In the present situation of Doctor Who, we've got fuss about season 3 commissioning. We've got Ncuti getting pulled back, possibly. We've got all the usual rumours. It feels like the late 1980s, I have to say. With all that in mind, and with a lot of people saying they either like this iteration, don't like this iteration, right, we need to know the score, don't we? So here we go. 3, 2, 1, go. What is your preferred choice? 20.8% said cancel. 21.5% said rest it. 16% say reboot. 41% say continue. So you could argue, well, obviously continue is the winner. But just while I bring in Sean now, I will say the other way of looking at it is continue is where I assume people are happy. And if you add the other 3 together, that means cancel means you're not happy. Rest it means there's something happening now that you don't like. Reboot it means there's something happening now that you don't like. Add those together and you've got 41% versus 59% aren't happy. Does that correlate with where you stand, Sean?
Well, everyone will be shocked here. Yes, it does. But no, as you said, that's exactly what it means, because people who are in the 41% and they're entitled to their opinion are going to say, well, we want more people want the show to continue. Most people want the show to continue. It's like, actually, no. Most people are telling you something's wrong here. Something isn't working for 59% of us, over half of us. And Doctor Who can't afford to shed viewers at the minute.
You see, Sean, when you see the 41% saying continue, I will show in a minute, folks. Still hang around, because I've got comments for each of those 4 choices, and this is where the debate really starts. And a lot of those who said continue also said but. Continue if this changes. Continue, but will this happen? So basically, it's not even a slam dunk on the big number there. Now, on my Facebook page, and actually on the Hoonatics page, a lot of people have been shouting out cancel, rest, reboot, continue. So I've added them up as well. So if you look at those figures on the screen, everybody, on Facebook, we had a further 8 said cancel, rest for 6, reboot 2, continue 6. I'll do the adding up for you. So 16 are unhappy in some way versus 6. So whatever way you look at this, more people are unhappy and want something changing than want it to continue. Now, when I was talking to Sean earlier, everybody, it brought into mind stuff like the Bi-Generation, the Sledgehammer TARDIS, the 14th Doctor being retired, the War Doctor, the Fugitive Doctor, the Cyber Masters, the Master turned into Salt, the fantasy genre, the fourth wall being broken, the musical, companion-centric stories, it turning into a soap opera, the Doctor Who, the program DNA being reformulated into something I don't recognize, sex in the TARDIS, as in is the joke, lots of romance, the Doctor now being gender fluid, the timeless child, I will take a chill pill. Do you think, of Sean, this is possibly why those numbers are there?
I mean, those are things that really no one's really bothered about. People just want good stories, and I don't think they genuinely care who the main character is. And I think if there were good stories, I'm not saying they'd get away with it, but I think it would be a lot more palatable for people to watch. We've had shows for years with incredible. I mean, just look at Star Trek in the 90s with incredibly diverse casts and stuff like that. Buffy won a massive pop icon. I've still not seen it. Apologies, it's on my list of like shows that people absolutely love. I do think it's up there. I think that, I mean, let's be honest, right? Trying not, I mean, I won't swear, I promise. The shows, this last series was as full as poo as that spaceship with those flipping babies on. It was dreadful, forgettable, silly. It was, they needed to come back strong, didn't they?
So let's look at some of the things here. And hello to the thread. As I said, you're the stars of today. I'm going to show the comments in a minute, and you can see I had a few there. But just to bring in the thread as promised, as David Harding says, it depends what you mean by reboot. And David, I'm going to look at that, because there's a lot of different versions people were actually listing to me. And quite right. What do we mean by reboot? Some people, I think, meant rest it. Some people put cancel, and what they meant is rest for 10 years and then actually do adapt it in some way. Let's have a look who else has got some things on. I'm going to get your questions on various things. If I've got a crackly mic, Lee, tell me now. I know it should have stopped. Michael Q, Brandon, I wait the show. I want the show to continue. Tell the BBC fools, tell RTD and that to get lost. And Michael, that was one of those. Some people said continue, but, and I will come to that with some of the details. Sadako 24, this is kind of why it's sometimes better a show ends early. If it had Sutek, would still be the cool villain of Perman's Maz, whose story ended there. I know you said after Tom Baker, you're finished with it, I think you said. Lee Smith, the court of RTD2 with Gatwa and his jester. So I'm getting the vibe from various people. I will jump along, but I will certainly serve you, I hope, well tonight with a lot of comment that I think will feed this debate. Mad Mackham, I now realise because you said you were Sunderland, not Mad Mackham. Mad Mackham.
Okay.
I know, we've got to put up with him. We need to be strong and continue and outlast RTD. He and Ncuti, who will be off in 5 years. 5 years though, Mad Mackham. What I want to say is, since RTD took over in 2005, Yes, he went and disappeared, and then his followers came in and continued the formula to a degree. We've had 20 years of RTD's impact and New Who. That's a third of the show. The DNA of the show's been changed. So much of the formula is different. The vibe is different. I think people are forgetting that Doctor Who was supposed to be behind the sofa stuff. I just think a lot has been changed. And I think if you continue for another 3 or 4 or 5 years, as you're saying, it's just too much. And I'm going to come to some people's arguments that they sent me about if this continued like this, you're going to have to cancel the show and just start it again one day from scratch. And that's what some people's worry is. And of course, other people are saying, don't you dare do that. So it's a really, really tight one, this. So let me just bring in some of the comments and see what, Sean, you think as well. Let me just kind of set up. So cancel, continue, rest, or reboot. So I'm going to start with those who actually very strongly said it has to be cancelled. I'm sorry, this has to be cancelled. So if I just set myself up here and I'll show you some of the comments and then we can feed them in. So first of all, there we go. If you can see there, we've got a few comments that I appreciate came to see us. So you get there on the top there. Cancel the show for maybe 10 years until this awful fad is out of fashion. Then a continuation of the show with a new 13th Doctor that is exactly in line with the original. Sadako, who was obviously on tonight, good to see you. Personally, I would have been happy with the show ending with Tom left. Glad I remembered that. Dave Javu says, cancel. If it comes back at a later date, then as a reboot. Do you see how some people are saying, hold on a minute? By all means, continue for those who still want it, but the new series has to pay for itself. Hard to do because obviously it's in decline. And this continues. There's yourself. Merciful cancellation, says Sean, who's on with us. Screen Wolf, and then I'll come back to Sean. Cancel, rest, reboot. They're all the same, really. It's all about time limitations. Regardless of how people feel, 60 years of continuity is too messy, and 12 regenerations was easily enough. A story should have an end. One that actually goes on forever ends up meaningless and with no stakes. This would all be true even without all the other nonsense. And Sean, I mean, there's a few things to pick up there, but I am getting concerned that are we going to have Doctor 27, Doctor 52? You know, there's a point when having a doctor with such a high number starts to devalue it. So I think at some point, some program maker, if this continued, is going to have to make a mark and almost detach from the whole of the history somehow.
Yeah. See, the thing is with that issue, a good writer will get round it, won't they?
I hope
They'll
so,
get
yeah.
round it. Well, yeah, if one ever comes along. But they'll just get around it. But I think the longer this goes on, the more damage it does. And to be fair, you kind of want to say, and I know as a football fan of a particular team, I shouldn't say this, but you do kind of think, well, how much worse can it get? But then
Yeah.
they somehow managed to lower the bar with, musical episodes and horrendously out of place social messages that don't fit the episode you've just watched. And it's people. God, yeah, I think you could get round it. I do see what you're saying in terms of how much longer can it go, but I think the issue is that there's that much baggage with it. It would take that much sorting out. I worry that it's past the point of no return.
What about? I mean, there's a lot to discuss, and I'm going to try. Like I said, the thread, you're the star tonight because it's your turn. It's like an existential question. This Jim Hill is here. If the show continues on its present course, it will become unloved with cancellation inevitable. Rest and reboot is the only course, but how best to disentangle? And we'll discuss that tonight, Jim. It's a good question. And of course, all these options we're going to look at very carefully. And so just on the present cancellation discussion, my concern is I think we need to put the brakes on soon before too many things have been changed. Because when RTD came back, and I trusted him to come back and do a good job, I did. I have to say, I will say now, but he respected the Timeless Children, or says he's going to keep that in. Add the Cyber Masters, add all the other stuff he's done, and you realize, oh no, this is impossible for any new future writer, even a quality Sean, to unravel all this. So I see what you're saying, Jim, and you're the first of many who's going to be on this track, I'm sure. Lee Smith, if it gets cancelled, we'll all be dead If it, yeah, I know, I know. I think that's why
Speak for
even
yourself.
Paul Richards, good to see you. The only way to save Doctor Who is to take it away from RTD and Bad Wolf. It needs decent science fiction. I have to say, I think there's a dearth of science fiction writers. Quality in who has been chosen. Yeah, people who know about science and good storytelling. We need concept back. Gareth, Doctor Who's been run until the tires were blown and the engine exploded from abuse. It's an interesting metaphor. It was a great thing from the 20th century, but that century is gone. By my estimation, Doctor Who is dead. And I don't think we're trying to be downbeat. I think we're being honest. There's no other sci-fi franchise that's gone for 61 years. So it's tweaking and it's changing and it's buckling. And I have to say, there's a concern that can any show of that length maintain its canon, even in its usual inconsistent way? Can it maintain a character thread all the way through? Or is it best to just change it? Can I just say something now to Sean and the thread? When you think of cancellation, you've got to think of how much damage has been done. You've got to think a decade or more, people might start to forget. The DEI and the woke regime might have changed. So I'm going to make a different metaphor now. If you think Doctor Who's become infected, if that's the argument, hence why people are saying cancellation, what do? You stop the infection. If it's diseased, you amputate or jettison the zero room. Look at Noah in Ark in Space. You have to stop the Ruin from taking over. Kill him before it takes over. So there is an argument that you actually just attack the issue and say, cancel for now, buy time. The wilderness years were good the first time. I do worry that will the wilderness years be as helpful a second time? Because there is no guarantee, I understand. But my other concern, and I'll shut up then, is too much canon, too much mythology, too many doctors. As this franchise continues without any break from its past, I think it just labours more baggage on each showrunner. That's just a hypothesis. What do you reckon?
Well, it's a totally different. Obviously, if anyone doesn't know who's new and they haven't heard me before, I'm very much a 2005 plus Doctor Who fan. I am slowly going back to check out the older stuff, and it's marvelous. To be fair, there's no wonder people aren't watching the new stuff. But I think, I think a show can continue for 60 odd years. Coronation Street has done it, although it's not, struggling itself.
How
A
many?
different
How
genre.
many women has Ken Barlow had? I mean, honestly, that's what I mean. It breaks. Ken Barlow's no sex symbol, but he's had about 50 women. You think that's when a long franchise ruins his the credibility.
Well, I mean, when you look at the actual actor, he's had. I think he puts Ken in the shade. To be fair to him, but yeah, I mean, like that lady on the canal boat. Yeah, Ken's been around, but
Joanna Lumley.
yeah, oh yeah, absolute player.
I
But to
just
be
want to
fair, I mean,
go on.
sorry, mate, go on.
Oh
No,
no,
just
I
with the,
apologize. I know Daryl
no,
Joyce
it's all right.
here. We had him on the other day, and we'll hopefully get you on again. Great illustrations. Check him out. There's hardly anything in it that feels like Doctor Who to me now. Even the theme and the TARDIS are barely recognizable, and the storytelling tone is totally unrecognizable. Rest and Reboot. Thank you
That's
for
a
your
great
comment,
point.
and we
That's a
will
great
discuss Rest and Reboot as options in a moment. Let me just kind of make sure I'm keeping up with the promised stars of the show. Sadako, RTD had already trolled the idea of the Doctor having 500 and odd regenerations in a Sarah Jane episode. And you know what? That sounds like a nightmare to me. He was never going to be the one to undo the timeless children nonsense. And I kind of understand you respect your colleagues, but when the show
Just
has gone
ignore
on,
it, though. Just ignore it.
but you see, where I don't allow it is he says I'm going to respect Chris Chibnall's idea in the Timeless Children, but he doesn't respect other writers like Pyramids of Mars, and he changes the ending. That is disrespectful. So I'm sorry, that doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
Well, we've got loads coming on, and I'm appreciative of this. And like I said, we will delve into this a lot more. But I'm just trying to make sure I'm fast and speedy and respectful to you. Tom Norton, go back to Peter Capaldi's last scene. I have to say, Tom, I fought that for ages. I did hear a lot of Doctor Who fans saying, from 2017, it's not my show. I have to say, by accident, probably, Stephen Moffat has left a dialogue and he's left a scene that you could jump to if you so wished. It is quite a marker. I
That
agree with you.
dialogue's amazing, no? And when you listen to it as a fan and you've seen what's happened to Doctor Who since that, and you hear like "Doctor, I let you go," and all that
Yeah,
speech before
yeah.
that about
I
never
know.
be kind, never be always be kind, which the Doctor isn't. Oh, never be cowardly, which the Doctor is now. It's like it's perfect. It's almost like he could see the future and he knew what was coming. Maybe maybe secretly he saw Chibnall
It,
and thought, yeah, I know where he's going
well,
to go with it.
some would call it serendipity. Now, just as I'll bring in Greg and then I'll show the results again because people are tuning in all the time because we've done a big online survey as Doctor Who fans, 2 Doctor Who fans, and we're discussing the 4 choices available. And everybody has skin in the game. And I want to hear everybody's opinion and we will debate it as speedily and hopefully as effectively as possible tonight. Greg Smith, the reboot was great for a while, but at this point, it needs to be cancelled for at least a decade. Do you know what, Sean? People are saying 10, 12 years. They're all saying it. And they're all Doctor Who fans, and they all know that it's high risk to do this. But you can see there is certainly a strong contingent who are unhappy. For those who've just tuned in, those are the figures. Cancel the show, 20.8. Rest the show, 21.5. Reboot the show, 16.7. Continue the show, 41. Do your maths, folks. That's 41 versus 59%. 59% who aren't currently happy in some form or other with the show. That's the only way you can read those figures. And so that's quite a shocker. I contest. Now, we've quickly for a moment talked about cancellation, and I've mentioned a few things there. On the Facebook page, Daniel Berracloth said the show had been perverted beyond recognition, a bit like Daryl Joyce was saying, and needs to end, or at least have a very, very, very long rest to recuperate. Gosh, it's, when Sean, people say fandom split, and I do try and respect both sides, but fandom is very split. Cancellation versus continuity were 2 big ones, I have to say, because cancel and rest are quite similar.
Well, it's kind of like the conflict that goes on probably inside every Doctor Who fan. Like, we don't want the show to go because there's a chance, and I would argue it probably will never come back because they've
Yeah,
damaged it in my eyes too much to the fact that it's not like how it got cancelled originally, where the ratings drop a bit and the BBC or somebody lose faith in it and they get rid of it and think it's not for us now. It's not that kind of situation, and I
no,
think you don't want it to get cancelled in that respect, but at the same time, you don't want to see it continue as it is because it's just. Well, I mean, you get sick of it, or I can't remember who it was. Apologies, who said about it doesn't feel like Doctor Who. I remember saying that when we to friends and probably yourself when I watched not Doom. Was it not Doom? The Moffat one. Can't remember what it was called. Don't care. Boom, whatever it was called. Anyway,
yeah,
watching that
yeah,
and it
yeah.
felt like Doctor Who for the first 3 minutes. Because I followed other people and it felt like an actual story. And then the TARDIS landed and doors opened and I went, yeah, I remember this
But they
now.
forget, yeah, but they made and they paralyzed the Doctor for the whole episode, and it's the structure of the episodes that has changed so much that it's not recognizable Doctor Who. Recognizable Doctor Who isn't number one. Everything is done and dusted in 44 minutes. That was never the case. Unless you talk about New Who. And this is where I said a third of the time of the show has been so changed that you almost take it for granted. Why should we take a 1 episode story for granted? And I have to say, the writers in some ways would have to work less if they get one good concept, split it over 4 episodes. Another good concept, split it over 4 episodes. But instead, with 8 episodes, my God, they have to land quite quickly. Neville here, it's too damaged. Yes, you can undo it, but the stain will remain. It has to go, I'm afraid. And this is when I've got a different idea, which I'll raise in a minute, but I'll just get through our stars of the show. The thread here, Jim, who can't die, but it needs a reappraisal. And there's nothing wrong with that, is there, Jim? Good managers, good companies sit down and say, hold on, something's going wrong here. Let's recalibrate. That's all you need, but you need people who will listen. Now, if people didn't watch my little tiny YouTube show, I'd have to have a damn good rethink. If people in the thread were saying lots of things to challenge me on how we do things, I'd have to have a rethink. It would be arrogant to just say, well, I'm right. You lot go and, please, thread, don't do this, but go and touch grass. It's a bad idea. You listen to your blooming viewers, for God's sake.
Well, you do, except we had this conversation before, haven't we? You know, you've worked in public facing jobs. I work in public facing jobs. You have to respect your audience, your residents, whoever you're working with, your clients, whatever word you want to use. And if you don't, it doesn't end well for you. And it's showing now in that there's been absolutely no willingness from their side of things to go, you know what? Because they've clearly got a very strong vision. It's awful, but
Yeah.
they've clearly got a very strong vision of what they want the show to be now. But it's not landing with their audience clearly because the ratings have been horrific. So you need to look at it and think, right, what do we do here? It's the same as my podcast, your show. If you saw your audience drop and drop and drop and drop, you'd have to at a certain
Yeah.
point stop and go, what have I done here? When did it start going downhill?
Well,
What
let's try this.
happened?
So
What can I
let's sorry.
change?
So
Sorry, mate.
I'm being sorry. No, I appreciate. I'm just being fast and pacey with all the different facets because Doctor Who fans have given me so many different ideas. So
Mm.
we quickly mentioned cancellation. That was one of them. But the big one, 41% on its own, was continue. So I'm going to show you the comments so people can start to see, was it a green light to say, RTD, you're spot on. You keep going, mate. You've got our backing. Or were there a lot of doubts? So here we go. And I'll just show you some of these. So this is in the continuation one, which was 41%. There you go, not the middle probe. Continue, but ditch the gender bending rubbish and get back to great adventures with brilliant characters and superb writing. That's hardly a green light, is it, Sean? And Milo, just get a
Nope.
new team. So that's another one for new team. Stop putting it all on one person's shoulders. Yeah, I agree with you, Milo. Have a writer's room. Or let's have Philip Hinchcliffe and Robert Holmes a partnership. Let's have the Barry Letts, Terence Dix. Let's have Christopher H. Bidmead, Andrew Cartmel, Eric Serid. I know they didn't get on for a while with J&T, but there were partnerships. Where's the partnerships now? Nobody questions him. The Doctor doesn't lead with his yes, and abandon the companion for a one-night hookup. I agree. Rogue by any chance? G. Campbell, continue. Only now, I'm not picking these up for any other reason. These were all the comments on my page. You know, not everybody, when they voted, give me a comment. So I've taken them all. So I haven't selected them. Continue. Only if it also means fixing the show. That right? Which involves retconning the timeless child and giving us a Doctor who actually feels like the Doctor. And the last one here, I'd probably say continue. I'm not a fan of the direction it's going in, but my interest in Modern Who anyway is incredibly low. But I quite like the idea of continuing some of the merchandise, is what James is. That's not a green light, is it, Sean?
None of them are. I mean, it's how you feel about it, and that's the thing. People, you can argue with the logical side of your brain as much as you want. I'm talking about brains a lot tonight. I don't know why. But if when you put the TV on and you click it onto Doctor Who, or God, that's old fashioned, or when you stream it, or whatever you do, however you watch it, and you're going into it with that sense of trepidation of, oh, this is going to be rubbish, isn't it? And yeah, okay, that's not a good way to go into it, but that's the way that the show's made me feel. And you don't want to watch it. There's plenty more things to watch. There's all the old stuff to go back to. I'm very slowly working my way through series 4 on my podcast episode by
There's a
episode.
lot
It's
of
taking me ages. And you watch an episode like and I know what, even episodes that at the time I didn't think were very good, like Planet of the Ood, for example. Didn't think it was much of a classic, although I love Tim McInnery. I've just watched that back recently. Oh, it's amazing. It is not perfect, but compared to what we get now, it's
almost like
unbelievable.
it's almost like the show has regressed a little bit. Peter Harrington here, you know, my Doctor Who twin. A new wilderness years will be a tumbleweed, not the creativity of before. I know we don't know, and we're not soothsayers, but I have to say my concern is you don't get luck twice. It doesn't always work. You know, people say don't go back. You know, the wilderness years in the 90s amazingly worked creatively, but I wouldn't risk it for that reason. So I'm with you on that one, Peter. I am.
You know what
Because
this
who's
reminds me of?
go on.
Sorry. You know what it reminds me of? This Don't Go Back. It reminds me of another science fiction, Star Trek. In the Star Trek was at its best in the 60s and in the 90s and the early 2000s, when it always tried to move forward. It always got a new captain. It always got a new crew. it always tried to move the story forward, whether that was like Enterprise, which I love going back to before, the
Yeah.
original series. It always moved itself forward. Where
So,
Star Trek's become unstuck, it harks to the past too much. How many Spocks have we got? How many
no,
Kirks
but
have we got?
and and
I think it's
and
the
that
same with this.
that's what I think with
No,
Doctor Who. I think the mythology is so big. I love it, but the mythology is so big and unwieldy. And I can't watch a show where you just break canon because you want to. You try and follow it. I know you can't follow all of it because some of it's inconsistent. But if you start to ruin what the show structure formula is, then what's the blooming point? You might as well start again. Now, here's the argument on this one, folks, and I can buy into a lot of different ones. On the continuity front, all right, are you saying keep the same team or not? There's nobody who's responded and said keep the same team. So even the ones who are saying keep the show going are saying, "Oh, I love my Doctor." I think my assumption is I love Doctor Who, but I don't want to lose it. But can we change the team? That's what it sounds like to me.
but
But
if
as
the
I said,
chairman's the same, if the chairman stays the same, then
but
it's
as
not
I
going to
said,
like. Yeah, it
oh,
won't
sorry. No,
change.
I was just saying, but it's dangerous, isn't it? Because another year, another year, another year, you know, Timeless Children's then about 8 years away. And then are you going to go back? Because then it would look a bit weird to go back to something 8 years ago that people have half forgotten in the general public and
God,
tinker with it. And
eight,
and then it becomes, so
8 years. Is that how long it's been limping on for? It's
no,
it's
no.
amazing it's lasted this long.
Well, I'm adding the
Really, when you
three.
look at
I'm
it.
adding the three after that and all the rest of it. Right.
Oh yeah,
Um,
sorry. Yeah.
but I said it would be impossible to move on if we continue to allow RTD to do musical episodes, break the fourth wall, decide that Mrs. Flood's this, that, and the other. There's just going to be too much to unravel. So it is really one of those things where I think you bite the bullet now. Now, continuation, like I said, so many people are saying, but. So Lance Herod Jr. on Facebook said, huge rethink, but continue. Is that a green light? Similarly to the McCoy era, which improved after his first season. I kind of half go along with what Lance is saying, except we've just
Mm.
blooming filmed 2 seasons together.
Yes, so nothing's going to change.
No,
Not a single thing. It's probably going to get worse. Like that's the thing, or at least stay the same level of awful it's been because they've given themselves no time to to tweak anything. Like even if you went back in and edit, it's not you can't go back and change it. And I just think, oh dear me, like I do think this will be the end. I don't think there's going to be
yeah.
any more, but I don't know.
Well, good old TARDIS Spider. Hiya, Terry. I do not think we can ignore the last 5 years. They exist, even if I myself have not and probably do not watch them. The thing is, Terry, remember Dallas? I used to, we don't know, there were so many families in Britain in the 80s used to watch Dallas. And when Bobby Ewing, who was supposed to be dead, came out of the shower, it just destroyed that whole investment of that season watching. And after that, the figures dropped, as you may know. And in Doctor Who circles, the Bobby Ewing coming out of the shower is you've seen the Timeless Children, and even if you've hated it, if you retcon that, you're going to start unraveling loads of things. And unfortunately, I hate it, but I think as soon as you start unraveling stuff, I just don't think you can do that. I think what you can do, which I wasn't into, is you go to a period of Doctor Who and you say from there it's disconnected. And a lot of people, as you know, before me have said the Capaldi end might be it, which is a shame for those who like Jodies, a shame for those who like Shooties. It is a shame. But I think to make the show survive, at some point you're going to have to cauterize, you're going to have to amputate, you're going to have to jettison the zero room, and you're going to have to make a decision. This show cannot lumber on holding all that mythological baggage on its shoulder and sustain itself. It'll become a bit beige. I think it'll just become a dilution, Oh,
It's already
here's
there.
Doctor.
It's already
Yeah,
there.
he's Doctor 15 with Doctor 22. It just sounds like buses.
I thought
It
you were
just
going to say something else there, but no, I know what you mean. I just think it it's going to take such I mean, to be fair, I was going to say it, and I know I say this jokingly, but I mean, I would take it at this point. I'd take Capaldi get out of the shower. Wouldn't do it for me, but I'd take that at this point. No, just Capaldi just walking out,
Yeah.
out of the old TARDIS shower. I'd take that. But and in fact, I didn't love his series towards the end. Series 10, I watched
No.
them all back
No.
during a certain time when we couldn't do anything else, and I couldn't watch series 10. I find it almost unwatchable. So, and that was under Moffat. And, so it's been struggling for a long, long time. And I
Yeah.
think it's got to a point now where there's there's,
You
there's
see,
nothing left to hang your hat on.
isn't
It's
that
just
Sean? Sorry, I'm
mm,
butting in so
all
we
right, mate.
can be dead as
Yeah, yeah, go on,
interactive
go on.
as possible. The BBC have maybe done what some of us fans are saying by saying continue, but no, keep going, don't spoil it. Because remember, think about it. When the Jodie Whittaker era wasn't really landing, they then get RTD back, and he can kind of continues it roughly the same in a slightly different. You know what I mean? The point is, you add another year, another year, another year, and before you know it, you've got a whole tranche of 7, 8, 9 years of
Yeah.
not brilliant Doctor Who, and that cannot be unravelled unless you cancel. So the continuation argument is an interesting one, but not anybody tonight. I'm scooting through the thread. Nobody on Facebook, online on X, or here yet has said, continue, I'm fine.
But
Nobody yet.
where's the people saying, I mean, I'm sure there are a few, and God bless you. Like I've said to a friend of mine through podcasting who's loved this iteration, even though even he's picked up that the stories aren't great. Even for the people who love it, like there's not enough people who love it. And where are those responses in this? Where's the people saying, I love this, I love that, I love this? It's not strong enough. There's not the stories, there's not that fundamental love for it. I think most people are just a bit sick of it
No,
now. And a lot of people are past it. Like, I'm not being funny, I said it to you. Unless you ask me to watch part of it to come on here, I will not watch like season 2 because that's what it is. It's not Doctor Who for
I
me.
know
I will not
it's.
watch it. I'll watch it for you, and that shows how much I think of you, honestly. But if you said to me, "Oh, Sean, we're going with other guests for the whole series too," I'd go, "Cheers, Brendan. I'm not going
What's
to
it
watch it.
worth,
I'll
Thread?
enjoy it."
What's it worth, Thread? I could do an April Fool and say I'll text Sean around April next year saying I want you to watch all of season 1 again, and I won't do it. Gareth, I believe that Moffat knew what they were going to do and intended. Well, actually, we said that earlier, and I have to say, you wonder. But even if he didn't mean it, he set a lovely line in the sand. Um, Now, let's go to another option. So we've discussed continue and some of the comments from our friends. We've
Sorry, I'm
discussed.
laughing at a comment I've just read. Sorry.
It's all right. I'll come
From
up to it. Now, this is the reboot version. So again, remember, 59% of the voters said reboot, rest, or cancel. They are not happy. So here we've got I'm for rebooting the show with a new cast and a new showrunner who will prioritize story over woke nonsense. We've heard that more than once already. Clive, I think you're the QPR fan. A complete reboot. Now, notice he says complete. New doctor, new showrunner, new writers, make the doctor alien again. Well, I say hurrah to that. Charles Winford Lodge makes a very interesting point. Thing is, each new series is potentially a reboot. I agree with you. Season 18 was. Remember when J&T came in? We changed the graphics and everything, changed the direction. And that was a brilliant one. Changed the Doctor's costume, so to speak. You could say season 7 was Spearhead from Space, was another equally quite a big reboot, really. But he also says each time the Doctor regenerates, Spearhead from Space especially was a reboot. Each showrunner has the freedom to just discount things they're not keen on or just not reference them. Doctor Who was consistently inconsistent. And I do buy into that a lot, Charles, because there's no way you can follow all the canon through the unit time years in the 1970s and references. You can't stick at everything, I know. Screen Wolf was contributed quite a lot, said, honestly, the 2005 relaunch should have been a full reboot. Even when it was good, it was far too different to the original to really feel linked. For me, it was never in my head canon. In recent years, that's become the only way to think of it, as entirely separate. The snag, isn't it, with Sean, is when Screen Wolf says that, I know what he's saying, but the point is RTD kind of he had the best of both worlds. He kind of has done a full reboot in 2005, but then he's also continued to Doctor Number Nine. Therefore, he's linked it. The swine.
Yeah, but it linked in slowly because I watched it. I watched it from 2005. That's where I watched the show from. And when you look back, he bled in the other doctors very, very slowly. I mean, it got more overt, I mean, like the next Doctor, which wasn't a favorite of mine. That
Yeah.
that episode was very on the nose. It showed them all, but that was the first time in 4 years that they'd actually shown that. So it bled it in quite carefully, and it was done purposely so that it didn't alienate new viewers, and it
Yeah.
kept some of the older audiences came back at the original series. It was a very clever way to do it, and I hope they do it with this. They should, with this first series, they should have come in and said, right, and do something like that. They could, but no. I can't.
Well, you see,
Can't
on the
do it.
reboot front, and I've got Simon Anthony's point that I want to bring up. So there's a lot of things I want to do dead snappily here. So, Simon Anthony, I'm leaving your question on screen while I just remember my point about the reboot angle, because a lot of people are saying change this, change that, or they're actually saying actually don't cancel the show, but just reboot it and separate it from the original. So on that one, look, how crazy is that really? I don't know if it is anymore. I would have never have bought into this even a year or so back. But now I'm buying into the idea that actually, you watch Agatha Christie's and you have different Poirots and you have different Miss Marples. Does that affect your canon? Does that affect things? How many Death in the Niles can you watch without, you know everything that's going to go on? They switch them things around, but you get the same plot, but you get Ustinov and different variations of that. So how bad is that? I mean, I quite like the idea, Sean, of actually just no more Doctor Who in this format because we're just destroying what was a loved brand. What we could do is you take the best stories that were ever
Yeah.
made since 1963 with the budget we've got now, one actor in them. So basically, you might have a first Doctor story, a second Doctor story, a third Doctor story. Just don't mention Doctor numbers and just remake it with 2024 production values and budget. And if we don't like it, because I understand with the Blu-rays, sometimes we go mad about the upgrade, you've still got the original. And I don't think it's that bad, Sean, because when you think of the Peter Cushing movies of the Doctor Who and the Daleks and the Dalek invasion of Earth, did it mean that William Hartnell was sidetracked and you couldn't watch that? Nah. It just actually looked great in color, looked great on the big screen, and actually both of the movies do make you want to go back to the original and watch all the episodes. I think we can have them sat on side. A year ago wouldn't have even tolerated this idea, Sean, but now I'm actually liking the idea to preserve the whole of Doctor Who. And when people say a decade of arrest, why don't we just have 7, 8 years where we make the best stories again, a bit like a cover version in the pop industry? They do it. Do it again. The Doctor is only one actor.
Do it
And
again.
they do them all.
Yeah.
A bit like Paul McGann. Paul McGann could come back, do all these best stories.
People would take that. You know how many people would watch if they literally said, "Oh, we're gonna bring this." This is why they. If they said, "Oh, we're going to make a mini series with Paul McGann's Doctor as he is now," everyone would be like, "Yes, yes, yes." And if they got a good writer behind it, problem is, and your idea is not the worst idea. I think some people would consider it sacrilege.
Yeah,
It's a decent idea, but not now. And what I mean by that is not like this year, not next year, not
yeah,
in the era we're in, because it would come across like awful, and you'd feel
yeah,
like they
yeah.
they feel like they can't do anything better or even half as good, so they're just gonna like tramp
I
off
would be.
this. I would go for more of an idea that I can't remember who it was, and apologies, I need to start writing things down. Somebody who said a kind of a shortened thing, a bit like a shortened series across a year, a bit like Endeavour. I'm rewatching George Gently, which I loved, and that would come out with these feature length episodes, and they
Yeah.
were brilliant, and I could see Doctor Who working in that way, but I don't know if it's too. I don't know if it's too. I think it's a car that's been condemned at this
I
point. I think
agree.
it's
I agree with the point, which is why I was reticent to ever think it, I suppose, before, as a Doctor Who fan who just wants Doctor Who on the screen, new stuff especially. Um, but And yeah, with the DI, the woke agendas, and the preachy messaging of most media agencies, yes, I am concerned that if I said, "Oh, go and remake Dalek Invasion of Earth with Paul McGann," yeah, we might have trouble. I agree with that, but let's just park that for a second. I've got Simon Anstey who's been waiting for ages here. He says, "What are the demographics of the voters in my online force?" So the 144 voters, they're all subscribed to the Sensphere. The analytics of the Sensphere are mostly 40 plus male. I have to be honest. That's the truth. You asked the question, and for full transparency, 40 plus male, mostly UK, it was that. So if that's what you're asking, that's your answer. If you're saying, where's the 19-year-olds, where's the 22-year-olds, where's that demographic? We do seek them out. I'm asking people of a younger demographic to come on this channel and defend, not in a horrible way, but just to actually, please tell me why you like season one. But they just don't want to come on, Simon. So we're trying, and I won't be the only stream who's doing that, but the Sensphere does try very hard to do that. Now the thread has gone mad, Sean, so I'm going to quickly just mop some of them up in a politely. So I'm going to start here with Peter. Instead of signaling with Geordie, they could have brought in McGann and give him a proper series. I think so many people are saying that. Rick Storm, good to see you again. Maybe the whole point of the current destruction of the show is so the BBC can reboot without opposition from the fans and start again. Rick, and I'm open to a version of a reboot, but as Sean says, but not maybe with the agendas that the media.
Well, I mean, for me, it's poor writing. I mean, in my podcast, I don't get into politics, which is bloody difficult at times, I tell you. But it's poor writing. That's what gets people. That's like the original RTD era had message. Message is the wrong word. It highlighted social things, changes and stuff like that. That's absolutely fine. No one's bothered. But write a good story first, and then have the messages and have the themes in it that you want. I think what sticks in people's craw now, across the board, whether they agree with the messages or they don't, which is their right, it's not good. The story's not good enough to sustain you. So you watch it once and go, "Well, I'm not going to watch that again." I think it's poor writing. That's the bigger issue. But
now, David Mullen, good to see you. You normally have some very good points. I'm waiting for an essay from you, David. You deal with the series' history by not referring to it. It's how Doctor Who worked for the first 20 odd years, looking forward and not backwards. I know, apart from the three Doctors, David, and I suppose you could say the Deadly Assassin in a way, and a couple of others. I know. But apart from the multi-Doctor stories, especially the five Doctors, which I obviously loved, forced J&T and to enjoy being a bit nostalgic. And of course, we had the Five Faces of Doctor Who around the same time. We had Logopolis, obviously, which had all those lovely clips of the Tom Baker years. And then we saw it again in Earthshock. And you start to see that actually we were getting fed our sentimental, nostalgic views back, weren't we, David? And then a casual viewer is going, I'm not getting this. I assume it's Doctors from the past, but what is this? And it starts to talk to itself. And I don't think any show should do that. I have actually got written in my notes that actually to save Doctor Who now and not cancel reboot, I think it should just. Although I'm talking about a kind of version of a reboot still, Sean. I'm thinking.
Well, listen how
if you don't like, if you don't like the
Yeah.
highlight version, everybody, Paul McGann or somebody doing some really strong shows. The other version is you look forward, no Master returning, no Daleks possibly, no, certainly no Davros. Look forward properly, new worlds, not companion-centric stories, back to episodic, an alien Doctor who's wandering, in the stars, that sort of thing. Don't bring Gallifrey back. Don't bring the Time Lords back. And I think to sell the show again and really sell it is really your point, David Mullen. The series history needs to be parked. So if we're not cancelling the show, we cancel its history for a few years. No references. Stick him in the TARDIS. Get him wandering. Don't make the companions dominate. No romance. Get on with it. What about that, Sean?
Well, you know what I've just thought there where you were I was listening to what you were saying. I think, do you know what I think could really work? And I know people are going to think it's like the Fugitive Doctor. It's not, and I'm just ignore that for now. I would personally love you know, like a Doctor Who, but we don't know what Doctor it is. Like a brand new Doctor is just in the middle of, in an
Yeah.
adventure, like a limited series adventure, and you don't know whether this is a pre-Hartnell, which I know is very
Yeah.
unsavory for some people. I'm not against that idea. I just think the way they did it was shocking. But they just had this like mystery Doctor. Literally, it's Doctor Who, but you don't know what number, which is fine. I'm happy with that. And then
Yeah.
they just have an adventure, and but it's a dark story. It's more leans more towards a Children of Earth, and I know it probably not that dark. Torchwood Children of Earth, sorry. A dark story, and it good writing. Keep
Oh,
it,
dark.
even
Yeah.
keep it small, because if it comes back in that form, it's not going to have tons of money if the BBC is still
Well,
kicking
we've got.
around.
I'm
I'd love
gonna
that.
keep. Yeah. Well, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to. You know me. I'm
No,
really
no, it's
rattling
fine.
through this.
It's like the weakest link here. You like
And
Anne
I
Robinson?
know it's like you.
I'm waiting for the
No,
laser.
I know. But are you saying I'm an android? Here we go. Right. So Raymond Williams. The last two leads have been badly miscast. But pick the right actor and decent writers like Jamie Matheson, Joe Abercrombie, Gareth Roberts, and it could succeed. You see, when I went to Dras this year, Raymond, Rob Sheeman was there who did the Dalek episode. And I think a lot of Doctor Who fans say, oh, I love that Dalek episode. But he never came back. RTD didn't ask him back. RTD didn't get Gareth Roberts later on, did he? Because of the politics, we think. So, yes, Raymond, there are some great writers out there, but look at the writers he picked for Rogue. Two people who hadn't done Doctor Who before. One was a comedy writer, one had done Loki, and they brought in a predatory doctor who was irresponsible and left his companion for dead. And even when she was then alive because of her quick wits, he needed Rogue to save her from that strange triangle of whatever. Honestly, who are these writers? I'm thinking that the alien is going to do cosplay. It's on the run level, this. Take the show seriously. The Doctor doesn't need to be led by his member. The Doctor doesn't need to be one of these heroes who's, well, he's not a hero. He makes mistakes. To have a hero Doctor, you need him to lead, to be quick-witted. It's not only his brains at work. It's not normally he's a superhero or space Jesus. So yeah, I agree with you, Raymond. I really do. Babette Bombshell, good to see you. Doctor Who needs forward trajectory. I think that's what I was trying to say, wasn't it? Every time it rehashes the series past, it deconstructs its own concept and fan base. And I think it bores some people. I know, like I said, the Five Doctors, we all love a little bit of that. I mean, of course, my favourite was Raston Rory Robot and the Cybermen. Great attack sequence. But I am also aware there's a lot of casual viewers going, give us some good sci-fi. Make it scary. How many casual viewers of sci-fi adored Alien? I mean, the original. Scare people. Make it dark. Get them jumping. How many people like a bit of horror, thriller, suspense? Add Doctor Who taking itself seriously. And surely you have a formula that if Bad Wolf wants to take on the whole world, it would. Why can't they do that? Why do we have to break the fourth wall? Have a musical sequence dancing on some zebra crossing near Abbey Road with a burping TARDIS? Why? Why can't we take it seriously?
That's a great point. Yeah, you know why we can't take it seriously? Because they're not taking it seriously. It's like
Yeah.
walking into a cafe and saying, "Can I have your beef burger special, please? Your Doctor Who beef burger special," and watching the servers behind the line throwing your burger and your buns around, no gloves, spitting on it, wiping the nose, farting, throwing. I was going to say throwing diapers around. That's that episode stuck in my head.
Space
Doing all
baby.
sorts, they're throwing it, yeah, throwing it. Oh, that terrible Thunderpants, awful. They're throwing it around and then they just slap it in front of you and you go, there you are. And you go, well, if I don't care about it, if you don't care about what you're making, why should I care enough?
Yeah.
It's bad service. That's all. Sorry for
Yeah.
the convoluted analogy,
And
but I
Simon
quite
Anthony,
enjoyed
who
it.
I'm going to get on one day, Simon, as you know, but you're doing a good job because the point is, while I'm making very clear lots of ideas, and if I'm talking fast and sounding strident, it's just to fit in as many people and opinions as possible. It's trying to respect. But Simon Anthony is pushing the other side, which is fair enough. The Doctor Who prom had thousands of young people queuing to get RTD's autograph. I know, I agree. That's a fact. Yes, I agree. It's just that are they the ones who are going to stick with the show? Are they sticking with the show because they're happy with a bit of representation? Because the ones I've talked to, and I have, Simon, they like Doctor Who because of what it says to them about themselves. And I'm thinking, no, I always liked Doctor Who because it was just escapism. I didn't see myself in it. Did you, Sean, see a working class Middlesbrough lad in it? I didn't.
No, no, I didn't. I think this is what gets me. I think anybody can see themselves in anything if the writing's good enough, because we're human beings. We empathize with people. We do. I don't. I can't get my head around that thought that, yeah, like you said, I've never seen somebody who looks exactly like me on screen, who's exactly where
No.
I'm from, who's had exactly the same background. That's the point. We're all different. We're all different human beings. We don't know what the hell's gone on in each other's lives. We haven't got a clue. We don't know whether we're caring for somebody who's got a degenerative disease. We don't know whether we're helping somebody battle cancer. We don't know what the hell people are doing behind closed doors. We haven't got a clue. So we need, like, everything will speak to everybody and what people need, especially nowadays when they're sat freezing cold in their houses. Stay off politics. They need they need a bit of bloody escapism, and if they're not getting it, they'll turn the
Yeah.
bugger off, and that's what people have done. So, and look how extreme our and the chat's ideas are for
Oh, look. And
for the show. None of us are going, oh,
well, look at
it's going through a rough year. Everyone's
people are
like, change it, get rid of it.
people are desperate. Look at Mark Milford here. And honestly, believe me, I genuinely I'm working fast here and I'm flicking through that thread. I'm getting you on. Can everybody tell me very clearly, cancel, rest, reboot, continue, so we can really see where the rest of you are? Well, Mark Milford here. You see, this is what fans are like. We try and get ourselves out of somebody else's predicament. Capaldi's Doctor is still trapped in the confession dial, with all subsequent events involving Jodie and Ncuti Doctors being part of a confession dial, it containing everything from Heaven Sent. There is a way out of this. And actually, Mark, I kind of like this. And Divine and Dragon did the same thing. If you watch our old stream on this one, on the autopsy of the season and how do we get out of it, there's fans out there, clever enough, number one, passionate enough, number two, and respectful enough of most of the canon as much as I can to try and say, look, this might narratively work without disrespecting the Jodie and Chibnall era, whether you liked it or not. And the same with the Ncuti era. It's very respectful. I wouldn't mind RTD being respectful of us and RTD being respectful of other writers or maybe past now and not wrecking their writing. I would call it vandalism myself. I know he likes the word cultural appropriation. I call it RTD appropriating stuff for himself. Excuse me. So, Mark, I love your idea. Anthony Parkinson, RTD 2. And he is different from RTD1, I know. Doesn't want good writers coming on board in the same way Kurtzman hated what was done with Picard 3 because it made him look bad. Ah, yes. How many people have said that? Claude, good to see you. We were filming a bit earlier tonight. Your 200th show, Solo One podcast. Check him out. I like the idea of a discussion with people from a younger demographic. Well, yeah, I'm trying to get them on. They're quite shy. Get there. I used to teach them.
Excuse
yeah,
me.
You're too old.
I'm
You're a
trying
has
not
been.
to feel offended here. I know.
No, think of the Christmas Invasion, and I'm the Doctor, and and you're Harriet Jones. Doesn't she look tired? That's what I'm saying about it. No, right. Get their perspective and perhaps educate them from older long-term fans. I can say that. We can't see him. He's devious, you know. Right. The Hand of Lenin. The Doctor has been to Earth. Oh. You know, the 14th Doctor said to Donna Noble, it's the happiest I've ever been, having somebody's omelette and salad and, helping with the potting shed. Really? Because the third Doctor was desperately trying to get off the blooming planet. I'm just watching the Silurians now with Jamie. And what was the Doctor doing? Fiddling with the TARDIS, trying to get taken off again, trying to get off that blooming planet, bored rigid with 20th century Earth. And now we're supposed to believe that the 14th Doctor goes, do you know what? I quite like 21st century Earth. Do you? There's nothing gone wrong with you. That is the character. That's character consistency bust, and that's what I can't tolerate.
Yeah. The man who always runs because he dared not look back. That's the point.
John, this is the Doctor who, and the original David Tennant Doctor, who had those lovely lines in Gridlock and that, and talked about, the purple clouds of blah blah blah, and the Doctor always used to poetically talk about where he could take you. Remember the eye of Orion, which looked like blooming whales to me on a dodgy day. But anyway, he always said, "I can
It has
take
a
you."
slightly different connotation now, where the Doctor talks about where he can take you. But
Yeah,
I'm not
well, yeah,
going to bring us down to that level of smut.
and he's
Not
and
going to
he's
do it.
been there. Yeah, he'll take you to an alternative universe. It's called. But anyway, yeah. The truth is, he always
Promises,
used to say, "I could take you." Yeah, the Doctor had a wanderlust. We were told
not
narratively,
just the lust. Yeah,
yeah, the Doctor was bored with Gallifrey. He found it tedious and boring. He wanted to wander the stars, and
well, he was a
suddenly you got.
weirdo, wasn't he? In that respect, he was a weirdo. He was an enigmatic.
He
He
was an
was like he was.
outsider.
Yeah, exactly. Which is what the Doctor was meant to be. That the Doctor was never the Doctor who's never been cool. It's never
No.
been for the cool kids. And what are the cool kids anyway? But it's
Oh,
never
now,
been that.
hi,
It's always been the
baby.
eccentric.
Give me the loving.
Oh, don't,
The
don't.
the Doctor. I don't get right. Doctor 15 can be different to 14, 13, 12. I get that bit. I'm a Doctor Who fan. What I don't get character wise and consistency wise is you cannot have a Doctor who suddenly says his version, his modus operandi is I land somewhere and I shout and I say, "I'm here, love me." The Doctor was subtle. The Doctor was humble. The Doctor would sneak in. The Doctor was aware everybody was suspicious of him. He had to always prove himself because they were normally saying, "Why you were on board? Why have you just sneaked in when there's a few murders?" And he always had to decide that. I quite like that version instead of going, "Give me the loving." How up yourself? I don't. That's a horrible trait to be just like, "It's all about me, darling." That's not the Doctor. And you know what? RTD has said, I don't know how many interviews this year, he didn't like the pompous classic Doctor. I tell you what, I could live with apparently pomposity compared to this arrogance and ego and diva behavior.
And I'm
How
surprised he can get
can
his head. I'm surprised he can get in the TARDIS with the size of his head. But for me, with his ego, for me, I think RTD has forgotten. That
forgotten?
he's that he well, no, that he remembered when he did it first. All the behind the scenes are about how worried they were going to mess it up. You're the custodian. You're like a football manager. You're there for a while. You do your best. You do what you do. You try and build something, then you pass it on to the next manager. Or, it doesn't always end that well. But, that's the point. You're the custodian of something. You're not the owner
Yeah.
of it. You're
And
not. You're meant to respect the club. Respect the club. Yeah, respect the club. Let it do your thing and go.
we've
Try
got,
and get it as high as you can. But he's
I
forgotten. I
know,
think that
we've got so
he's the
many.
custodian.
I'm butting in all the time. I'm like one of those
All right,
teachers. I was a teacher for 30 years. You shouldn't do this in class and butt in when people are talking. I'm sorry, Sean.
I am a gobby
David
kid.
David Harding, Doctor Who is a show that should theoretically be able to do just about anything. Agreed. Go anywhere. Agreed. Go to any time. Yep. And yet it feels so small and constrained. Parochial. All bogged down in emotional baggage, and it's EastEnders. It's soap in space. It's not the Doctor Who that actually is the famous version. And RTD, who ironically calls other people appropriators of this, that, and the other, and we couldn't make Talons a wench I am now, and all the rest of it, has appropriated the franchise. He's the toy maker of Doctor Who. He's the one who has all the character options dolls, making the David Tennant Doctor like potting sheds and like salads suddenly. And he's
Have you
just moving
seen
it
the
all around.
price of them, by the way? Have you seen the price
Oh,
of them?
yes.
I was in
Now
my
with
local B&M and I couldn't find the Davros one, but I saw
I've got them. I've
the
got them.
it was it the not the Daleks, what was it? It was the Time Lords, but like
Yes,
four of
the
them,
Deadly
and
Assassin one, yeah.
the quality didn't look great. But the price, like 16.99. I thought, I'm not buying that.
I know. Well, wait till they go down in price. Gillian, good to see you. I
Yeah.
haven't seen you before, so it's lovely to see new people. Subscribe, please. Subscribe. I'm sounding like Shooty. Shooty just lands and looks for somebody to snog. This is when he be. It's a shame, isn't it? Ncuti Gatwa probably thought I'm the lead in this production, and I can feel for him the empathy of going, wow. Can you imagine being told you've got the Doctor Who gig, and you're given scripts that have you just indecisive, paralyzed, irresponsible. You're not really aware whether your companion's alive or dead, and you fancy that bloke over there. Wow,
It could have
this is the
worked. It could have worked, though. It could have been like Matt Smith Part 2. Honestly, I genuinely think it could have worked. The scripts, if they'd have been like RTD1, yeah, they weren't perfect. like the Slitheen. They weren't perfect. I understand that, but God, they could have done that. They could have had like a Matt Smith point two. Okay,
Yeah.
did the Doctor give a bloke a side eye every now and again? Fine, no one's bothered, but you
Well,
do
we've
wonder,
got
like it was there for them, wasn't it? And they screwed it.
it was, and just like me on this podcast, people will come and go in seconds. So I'm aware of that, and RTD should be very aware that one episode, there's no guarantee they're coming back. If they see Devil's Cord and that's what sticks in their brain, they're not coming back. Now, another one who I haven't seen before, but really welcome, Ship and Shaw. The show's finished. Dismantle it. The last two actors are alternative universe versions of the character. The Doctor is portrayed as a narcissistic child, which is not heroic. Tell me of what version of Doctor Who is it heroic to be up yourself, driven by yourself and your own kind of lust? How is that somebody, when you're back at school, you go, I want to be like him? I get that some kids who are maybe still struggling with being gay might, the way some people are now is because he's gay, I can follow him. Because somebody's trans, I can follow that. I get all that stuff. But the point is, Doctor Who was more than that. It wasn't a badge. It was a whole way of being. And yes, he was an outsider, and he was an anti-hero, an underdog. That's why I think we call it quintessentially British, because he didn't have all that bravado of an American superhero. He was an underdog with a scarf or with a police box in the galaxy. The whole show has such rich cleverness to it that we then turn it into unit headquarters looking like Stark Tower, as you know, that we suddenly want to emulate another franchise that is not quintessentially British. We're
Oh my
forgetting what makes it
Bridgerton.
special. Yeah,
Yeah,
Bridgerton.
yeah. It's like they don't understand. That's the thing. They don't understand what it is. And as for, yeah, okay, if and it's a great thing if Shooty's Doctor helps somebody in that way, brilliant, spot on. But you know, did it? Yeah, I mean, fine. I was just thinking more about. I was going to say, have you ever been to a Doctor Who convention? I'm pretty sure Doctor Who had a pretty big gathering from a
Lonely,
lot of different communities. Do you know what I mean? I'm
lonely.
just, you know.
Can I just say to anybody who's never watched us before, I normally do a saloon on my own, and I'm really appreciative of Sean coming on because this is a live show and there's so much to talk about. These are the puppets that you not often find on the Sense Sphere. We're making a series soon called Tales of the Turdis, and it's behind the scenes at Bad Wolf headquarters. It's going to be called Bad Whiff Productions. And look, they've got a Jack Daniels, and so often in my Sensory saloons, they've got different versions of looking drunk. So the puppets are behind me as if they're Bad Wolf, going, "What are they saying about our program?" And they'll work out in a minute whether they have to turn to the drink. So that's why I've got them there. Right? Sorry, just in case you've not seen us before. Paul Richards, good to see you. Gatwa going on about white. Well, you see, this is it. RTD on Unleashed. Gatwa in some of his clumsy interviews, too busy talking about whatever badge you have. I'm black, by the way. Or, by the way, did you know I'm gay? Or did you also know I'm half Rwandan? Or, by the way, did you know? Yeah, all right. I have to say, and I'm not saying you disrespect that, but you're more than that, though, aren't you? You're more than that. You're a good actor, aren't you? Come on, let's surpass ourselves. I don't come on here saying, please watch this show. Anybody who's gay, please watch this show, please. That's got nothing to do with it. I'm a stroppy borough lad as well. I mean, hello. So stop it. It's just nonsense.
You've
Right.
set a benchmark for when anybody you'll notice when the set sphere truly is struggling because Brendan will trot that out.
I know. Yeah, I'll be saying, look, yeah, when I was 5, I used I've got hay fever. No, yeah, I know. But let
I've
me
got
just try.
asthma.
Yeah. Can you give to charity? Yeah, don't give me a subscription. Please. Give me some money. No, or at least give me an inhaler. Right, the Cosmic Hobo. Yeah, Daleks back, Cybermen back. It's all just shit, isn't it? Shouldn't have brought it back at all. And I don't want them back. I don't know how many streams I've done about what will the Cybermen and women look like in the future. What will the Daleks look like? We should all just watch Classic Who and forget the new stuff entirely. But I suppose Cosmic Hobo, don't just let them just do what they want. Now, the thread I'm going to try and keep up with, but I haven't even finished up with my other thread. So we were talking about, there's Theta Sigma says, retcon the show. Shempington, I love that name. Reboot completely from scratch. It's not a popular choice. This is kind of one I raised earlier with many fans, but the series has disappeared so far up its own arse that I think it's the only decision that makes any sense. Theta Sigma
See
was
ya.
responding, you trust these dimwits making it now to do a reboot. And you were saying this in a nicer way, Sean, about don't do all those highlights of Doctor Who, Brendan, with the current mob. And Shemp got back to them. No, not the current production team. It needs a good long rest and a major relaunch in the future. So you
I
can
love
see,
polite that is a good long rest. It needs a good long rest. It's like your nan in it telling you need a good
yeah,
long rest, son. You're working
yeah.
too hard.
Yeah, you need a nap. Somebody will be telling me in a minute saying, Brendan, you know, are you on steroids or something? You know. But I'm just fired up. Late at night, I'm off and running. So let's talk about this one, folks. As I said, the poll results are in. It's all about your votes. It's all about your comments, and I'm trying to, as fast as I can, feed them in onto the screen. So please, I'm trying my best here. So Rick Storm, who's obviously joined us also live,
Quicker, quicker. Sorry, I'm joking. Go on.
I would rest the show, then either reset back to Capaldi or continue it with a total retcon, making Susan the timeless child, kill off the bi generation, and have the original Doctor return only to regenerate and start afresh, going back to basics. You see, I think this is starting to get mileage. Jeremy, DW1963, he's often on our show. Hiya. A complete rest. If anyone was going to get the show back on track, it was the old RTD. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case this time round. I was with you on that one. Time for a rest. Now, he says 3 to 5 years. Most people, Jeremy, have said 10 to 12. And the British Alien, another good follower of ours, if the BBC rests the show, there'll be an explosion of creativity in other media, including from the fandom. The trouble is, British Alien, me, and whoever it was in the margin, I say the margin, the thread, we're a bit dubious, aren't we, about whether you can, you know, gold can strike twice. We've got, I'll bring you in again, Sean, in a moment. Sorry. Dread Newt, every 10 seconds, he's got to remind us he's the gayest ever. I'm like, I don't really care. I'm on, actually, Dread Newt, I'm gay. Yeah, I know. Shall I keep doing that? See if I get any likes or something. Heather, what if when the bi generation, I was thinking about the bi generation, Heather. What if when the bi generation happened, the Gatwa Doctor was all the emotionally regressed parts of the Doctor and all the self control went to Tennant, if still in the confession dial, that is. So people are seeing Twice Upon a Time as a moment with Capaldi at the end, some great dialogue. I can see how that horrible bi generation, which has now been done, it can't be undone, we've seen it, could be the moment you disconnect. And actually, if you bring the toy maker back in some sort, he's not dead, and you just unravel some of this stuff very quickly by shaking a salt cellar. I mean, how stupid is this? But anyway, just move on, mate, because we've had enough of all that sort of stuff. I've put David on twice. You must be paying me. Right, Anthony Parkinson. Most people don't see colour or sexuality anymore. Do you know what? I felt as though I was colourblind. The way we'd been taught, I think the 90s and early into the noughties, I think this was not a bad culture we were in. And then suddenly, bang, everything has to be counted, ticked off. And people do start to become more aware that they're being maybe manipulated slightly. It's a shame for black actors. It's a shame for gay actors. It's a shame for lots of labels, if you want to say it that way quickly, because you start to see people as just a play. You see them as a tick box rather than somebody who's skilled or talented. It undermines everybody, this game. It's just ridiculous. Paul Richards, maybe they should stop the show for 5 years and focus on a Paul McGann spin-off with new writers. I mean, I say hallelujah to that. Then bring back the main show, begin with an unearthly child. I know that sounds sacrilege, Paul, but I'm saying the same thing. I don't know if we dare do an unearthly child. Maybe Coburn puts a kibosh on it. You know what's going on. But yeah, the highlight, the best stories of Doctor Who. Or if we don't like that because we think that really would be trespassing on our memories, there's some stories that actually, like the Web Planet. If we remade the Web Planet, it's not a bad story. Give it a budget. Paul McGann, and let's see what we can do with it in 2024. And I think some fans would buy into that more. Underworld, let's make Underworld again. If you see what I mean. An unearthly child, Talons of Wen Cheyenne, Robots of Death. We might go, excuse me, Pamela Salem, so and so, you can't touch it. I understand that. But maybe some of the less loved Doctor Who's we could do. And I tell you what, any classic Who could be, make the Horns of Nimon again. And my God, it could look brilliant. And of course, one of my favourites, Creature from the Pit. Sean, any favourites you think we could bring back from the old days that looked a bit rubbishy, but we could do now brilliantly?
Do you know what? Not to be contrarian, but no, because I think not a single one. Don't touch it. Leave it alone. I think people will take like ropey effects, but a bloody good story. I think I think some of the bottle shows show you that. Your Faulty Towers, I know that's a comedy, but the sets wobble all over the place. The boom mic's there half the time, but it's like you couldn't get any better. So I think personally, just leave them alone. And again, in trying to fix it, we're looking back too much, and I think that's
Yeah,
something the
yeah, yeah.
show because we're looking back to when it was good, thinking, what can we do? What can we do? What can we do? RTD proved, to give him credit, he proved you could bring it back and change it and make it one of the most popular things on TV. Everybody was watching it. Everybody. It was ridiculous. I mean, like 15 million for a Christmas Day special was unheard for Doctor Who. And obviously now it's down to a million, if a million and a half or whatever it's down to, 2 million or whatever. And I think we need to look forward. We need to look forward. But I think the problem is, unless something changes, and I don't think it will, it's just going to limp on. I
Well,
mean,
well, let's be
yeah.
honest. Let's be honest. This is the situation we're facing, everybody. We've had a couple of months since the series finished. I think it's an interesting moment because we haven't got skin in the game at the moment, but we've had, the season 3 commissioning on not nonsense from Graham Norton, and that seems to be what streams are obsessed about. I'm more obsessed about the whole bloody thing. That's the situation that we were left with. There's the figures. The figures they're like the 28-day ones. Remember, they like those. They don't like the overnights. So this is a situation we have inherited, and we know that it can go up and down. Now, there's from Chris Eccleston to the very end, and I've put in Red Eye and Green Eye. That's series 1. Don't ask me the figures. It's the start and the finish. But look at that. If you did a line graph from Chris Eccleston, you can see it's a downward trajectory. A Doctor Who's been dying for quite a long time, if everybody can see that. There's the figures. And when I did a saloon, I give you the figures. If you compare the overnights for the whole series, it was a 14% drop. Okay, the BBC and RTD can't stand the overnights, so I'll drop that one. On the 7 days, it's an 8% drop of the audience over the series. But the one they love and the one they want us to notice is the 28-day figures, and that was a 21% drop in the audience share over 8 episodes. So, and that's the one they want us to notice. This series does have an issue, and I don't know. Sean, I don't know who you've talked to. I don't know what people on the thread, but the people I've talked to via this stream and this SenseSphere, in person, on the phone, and in text, a lot of people have said, I watched season 1, but I will not be watching season 2. And so there's going to be another drop.
Oh, it's going to be rough. I mean, the person who convinced me to watch the only person I know who was actually watching it at all, the person at work who convinced me, and I bloody told him to watch the Christmas special and give Ncuti a chance. Right? He didn't even watch. He watched the Christmas special and was like, "I'm not watching anymore." So like, oh God. So
Yeah.
I mean, in real life, I don't know anyone who's watching it. Not a single one. And like legitimately, and I used to know people who would at least occasionally watch it. And I think there's just no buzz about it.
No.
It really has. It's just irrelevant now. I mean, you can see it across the board, and the fact there's absolutely no buzz for the Christmas Day special. There's no buzz for. I mean, even like, when you look at like I can't think of the word, memorabilia that you used to get. Oh, well, I should know. I've got enough of it from especially the reboot era. I hate that word, but it's the 2005 era. Like just loads, and now like it's stuck in a corner of B&M between 10 tons of bloody Bluey
Yeah. Yeah.
toys and Thingy from Coco Melon.
And
So it's like and it's not exactly it's not popular anymore, and not the Doctor. I think apathy has long since set in, and I don't think it's recoverable. Personally, I'd love it to
Well,
be. I'd love to be proven
no,
wrong,
no,
but
that's the thing. Shippenshaw says here, Doctor Who used to be about the times and the places the Doctor Who visited. Now it is about him, her, their backstory. This is what I mean. It's gone up itself, and it's never a good look. That, and actually, it assumes people have seen something before. Um, RTD got away with it when he said the Time War. I think that was a nice little kind of narrative plaster over lots of things that had happened before, but let other people access the show. But once you start showing the Time War, once you start going into kind of, well, the Daleks have always been trying to get Gallifrey, and then oh now the Time Lords, now they've been quite corrupt. It's just no. And that's why I said I think Doctor Who should just go forward for quite a few years and actually do that. Take a risk. Don't rely on all your villains. Don't rely on the big names like the Daleks. Stand on your own 2 feet. Stand on your own 2 feet of your talent and write clever, unpredictable, sometimes eccentric stories in other worlds with a sci fi concept. Ditch the soaps. Ditch all that nonsense. No emotional baggage like Michael in Star Trek Discovery. I mean, please. Like I said, running down the corridor going, do you know, I'm really proud of how you dealt with that. Oh, get over yourself. In Pyramids of Mars, when did the doctor say, Sarah, I'm really proud of how you've progressed as a companion? I mean, how patronizing is that? Just get on with the story and we can go, oh, Sarah's good. Just let us make the decision. Stop preaching it to us. It's silly. Absolutely silly. And it's a waste of dialogue as well. That's the other blooming thing. Gemstones videography. Great to see all these new people. Subscribe. It would have made sense if the Doctor changed his sex to female and changed his identity and gender from a threatening alien race, providing you had a strong female actress like Tilda Swinton. Her name is mentioned so much, but do you think Gemstones, they'd ever go there? Because, right, Jodie Whittaker it doesn't matter, right? They picked a female actress. Were the scripts good enough to make the first female Doctor stand out? No. So the thing is, whether you pick Tilda Swinton or not, the scripts still have to be better than what we saw this year.
they brought
Right, Stan?
Tennant back and they were the most unforgettable. I wish they were the most not unforgettable, the most forgettable things you've ever seen. Apart from maybe Wild Blue Yonder, that was a bit interesting, but then just made you sad because you watched it back and realized how terrible it was,
Yeah.
and it was just a rehash of everything else, like a horrendous warmed up meal that was once good. Sorry, lots of food analogies. I'm on a diet. Sorry, everyone. Yeah, it's just one of them things, isn't it? You just I can't do it anymore.
Do you want me to keep Greg Smith, the saddest thing about Capaldi is that he was a huge fan growing up. Him getting the role would have been a lifelong dream, and that's when the show began slipping big time. I mean, I tell you what, talk about being pompous. If the BBC were big enough to eat humble pie and think, God, we should have kept Capaldi. You know, you've got somebody who understands the Doctor. There was all that nonsense about, oh, you can't have an old Doctor nowadays. If you have the right scripts, because some of the Moffat scripts at the end were misdirected. It wasn't consistent all the way through. Capaldi was undersold, like maybe Jodie was, and maybe Ncuti was. I'm just saying that just to be fair. The Doctors actually, for quite a while now, have been undersold by poor scripts, to be honest. And this is where you say, do you then say, stop, have a few years, get the creative juices going again, get some new writers coming through Big Finish or wherever the hinterland is, and then go back into it. But not with RTD, not with Moffat, not with Chibnall, not with some dodgy fan. I think you need somebody with an outlook. I'm a fan. Don't make me in charge of the show. Have somebody from outside. I do think now we need another pair of eyes. And if somebody came in going, do you know, I half understand this Doctor Who, but I think if you went this way, and it was sci-fi, and personally speaking, make it a thriller. But that's just me speaking as I usually do. Problem being, good to see you, mate. Cancel it. You can reboot it all you like, but the general audience is done with it, and the fandom is decimated. It needs a long, long rest. And most people, Lee, are saying 10 to 12 years. Now, There's a lot going on. This thread is on fire, and I am going to try my best. You know I am. But let's just proceed with some of the discussion, because while we were talking about the ratings, to be fair, okay, Davies, as you know, said he was focusing on attracting new viewers. How's that going? He believes existing Doctor Who fans will come along for the ride. We haven't, or we're about to get off. You know, this is a master plan, Sean, that's not working.
Yeah, it's not good, is it? I just love that second line though. And I hope they have a brilliant time. What do you mean they hope? You be selling this to me, mate. I hope you enjoy that burger I've just spat on. No, sorry, everyone. No, you need to sell it to me. Don't. It's like Brendan
Yep.
starting this and go, welcome everyone. Welcome to the Sensier Saloon. I hope you enjoy it. It might be okay. It might be a bit rubbish, but it might be okay. Stick around. Don't go
Yep.
to the million channels. Ridiculous.
And you see,
Ridiculous.
and I've had so many saloons. If you're new to me, I enjoyed this one. It was all based on evidence. I don't just rant. RTD appropriates all of Doctor Who for himself. So many examples in that one. But you see, early doors, I don't know if some of us have forgotten because we've all got PTSD of Doctor Who now. In the Doctor Who magazine, around and about just before the giggle, he said this: there will be controversial moments in the giggle. If you watch the commentary on iPlayer, I unroll a whole new Doctor Who mythology for you based around the events taking place. The commentary will have information that will rock the world. It's a whole new way of looking at the history of Doctor Who, and I can't wait to see the reaction. Why are you doing that? That's so egocentric. Write a good story. Why does he have to say, and I will also change the whole of Doctor Who as well? We know it's the bi-generation nonsense. But why? Why was that necessary? He knew that under Chris Chibnall and Jodie Whittaker, the audience's patience was being pushed to the limit, and the ratings were much, much lower. And then he says, I'm going to mess around with the whole of Doctor Who. That is a misstep.
It feels like your mate, he's just set up a band or he's reformed his band that were successful years ago. I like analogies, you might have noticed. And he plays a pub down the road and you want to support your friend and you're like, come on, mate. And he puts a post out on his Facebook saying this, acting like he's Oasis. He doesn't variable his ticket price, don't worry. And he says, I'm going to blow your mind with this show at the Dog and Duck on stage at 8 p.m. You know what I mean? It's like, come on, mate,
Yep.
just have a bit of like, they needed to be humble with it, didn't they? Be humble with it. Realize what mountain you're up against. They were up against a mountain. The 60th anniversary specials weren't special, didn't do very well. They should have realized, like, oh my God, like he should have been writing like for his life. And I don't know how much interference Disney have had and getting the writers, we mentioned the writers for the Bridget and Jesus Christ, that one earlier. I don't know whether they've been foisted on him because he tends to want to write everything himself. You don't know what's going on, but what a mess. Because I've read the writer's tale, and this is when you read it,
This
and he's
isn't him,
talking
is it?
about
No,
how insecure he is. Like insecure, I don't mean that in an insulting way, but he talks about in the book about how he leaves scripts quite late and he feels a lot of pressure and he feels like one day things are going to fall down and he'll be like exposed. He's got it's like almost like an imposter syndrome, and I respect that.
but I don't.
You do wonder like what's happened. Is it even him writing this? I don't know.
You
I'm
can
not
be good.
trying to excuse him, but
I think you can be good once, but I think the snag is he's proven here that you don't revisit. And there's a reason why I'm going to mention in a minute. Raymond Williams, the old RTD, could tell if something was rubbish or not. And this is to the point, really, Sean. He's writing trash and putting it out. Bad Wolf executives should have sacked him by now. It's well below hack status, the memory TARDIS. I know. And this is the point.
It's cack status right now.
But now he's writing stuff that's not landing, and I have to say he's not a good general. I'm glad we're not in the war because Doctor Who was on its hind legs after Chibnall and Whittaker and lockdown, and the BBC came with money to RTD, and what's he done? The bi-generation. Now let me just show everybody, just remind you, when Doctor Who was feeling weak and Doctor Who was under pressure, this is what he did. Right? He banned the sonic screwdriver because he thinks it's like some American gun and turned it into some sort of dodgy sex toy. Yeah, let's remember that one. This is a man we're entrusting with the program. Then on top of that, we had this homoerotic bi-generation which cannot be unseen once you've seen it, right? And please, when you've got your first ever black male lead, to respect him and value him as a talented person, have him in white undies, while the other white actor is allowed to keep his decency and keep his trousers on. How does that work for everybody who likes to be progressive? Then, of course, we had Rogue, which really was a stepping off point for so many Doctor Who fans. Yeah? I mean, and I'm not, where do I start with that one? And of course, the irresponsibility, the predatory, it was like Canal Street in space. And as I had a stream, did Rogue kill off Doctor Who? I really thought it had absolutely slammed the canon. And then, of course, RTD talked about cultural appropriation and he changed the whole pyramids of Mars. He even infected some of the lines in the Tales of the TARDIS. Remember that one, fans? And then, of course, we had the specials that Sean was talking about. And the specials were supposed to be special. The Wild Blue Yonder, what was I call the Big Black Chasm, there was nothing happened in it. But he just said he had a date with Houdini and Isaac Newton suddenly was Asian. Apart from that, I can't remember much at all because it was all really done in their head. It was trying to do Midnight. The Star Beast was the comic strip, but then the poor lads, the Gibbons and all that, the ones who did the Star Beast comic strip must have been so chuffed it was coming back. And what did he do? He ambushed their great idea by putting the bye thing on top and putting the trans discussion on top. And if you've forgotten it, folks, I'm sorry, I'm your worst nightmare. You're assuming he as a pronoun. Remember that one? And remember this one. Yes, I still can't forget it. We know everything, thanks, and you know nothing. It's a shame you're not a woman anymore. A male presenting Time Lord will never understand. This was seen as talent. This is RTD, and we're going to give him 2 more years. We're going to give him a whole. We're saying continue. This is what. Then we had the sledgehammer TARDIS invention that makes Doctor Who into Tinkerbell's Cinderella nonsense. Then you had Destination Skaro, all the fuss about Davros. Remember that? That hasn't been undone.
God, I've forgotten half of this. Oh God, I think my brain.
Then he said we're going to have the great gay doctor. Look, I'm gay myself. Like I said, I have to keep saying that just in case people join us and think I'm having a rant. It said the cosmic joyrider raised. It wasn't a joyride, this series. And then Bad Wolf said Doctor Who was primed to be bigger than ever. Look at the ratings. It's not. Then we had how Ncuti Gatwa is bringing Doctor Who into a new era. Yeah, it's one that a lot of us want to leave. And then we had the discussion about the church on Ruby Road that the Doctor now mentions. Obviously, he said he had a long, hot summer with Harry Houdini. And then Davies, in one of his interviews, said we auditioned men, women, black, white, non-binary, and actors whose sexuality was their own private matter. We want to break barriers. It's very hard for anyone to stop me doing these things. You'd have to be pretty brave to question me. Don't go there. I'm sure there are people thinking that, but I wouldn't work with them, would I? You've got somebody who, to be honest, sounds out of control. Doctor Who is a lifeline for queer people like me. You've got all this stuff going on. Then we've got Ncuti out of control, confusing everybody with it's coming back. No, it's not. This is the era. Apparently, 41% in the poll want to continue. But if you missed the beginning of the show, 41% said continue, but change RTD, change the cast, change this, change that, get rid of the preaching. Nobody give it a green light. So then you're left with 59% saying, rest it, cancel it, reboot it. They're not happy. And I think those might be some of the reasons. Which one of those things there, Sean, have I now given you a nightmare about? Which one do you think, oh no, that's killer? That was such a bad mistake to do at this stage of Doctor Who.
I mean, there is the British used to be very good at it. There's a subtle art of saying nothing. You're making a product, make it what you want. You're in charge, RTD. Make what you want. Put it out there and let us decide. Don't antagonize people. Don't come out like you're making the best thing since sliced bread. We love sliced bread. Just put it out there. Like it's almost like a playbook of what you didn't need to do. They were trying to get people back. They were trying to get people back. Oh no, sorry. You know what? I'm wrong. They weren't trying to get people back with us. Sorry, they've already told me that. They were trying to get new viewers in. Well, who do they think? They keep talking about younger viewers. Who do they think puts the telly on? Because my dad always put the telly on. Like that. I know it's different now with TVs in rooms. God, how old do I sound? I know it's different. I know. But, who do they think's putting this on? Like, and things like that. If RTD wants to do a groundbreaking documentary or a show like he has done in the past about certain issues, go and do it. Go and do it, and I'll watch it. And you know what? You might just change a few people's minds, create a discussion. Look what, and I know it's a different thing, but look what the post office, the post office versus Mr. Bates did. Everyone was talking about that. Everyone, literally, it was a buzz. That's what you need for this show.
But the
Like,
other thing
go
is,
do that. Do it somewhere else. Like,
but
do it.
the other thing is, Sean,
Anyway.
I'm trying to weave in what you're saying
No,
with
it's
what
fine. Don't worry. Go for it.
with what Paul Richards is saying here, which is, imagine if Chris Chibnall had Jodie's first scene in her underwear. And this is the point. RTD is in charge of this whole global production. He has to make some clever decisions about sonic screwdrivers, male or female lead, good scripts, good writers, the whole damn lot. He has to decide if unit looks like that or whatever. And I've just listed so many times. I mean, nobody's perfect. People make bad decisions now and again. But he's making so many where I think, I'm sorry, strategically, if you thought Doctor Who was struggling and the BBC said, please, can you help us out, starting with the specials? Can you really go somewhere with this program? We're throwing money at you. We've even got Disney involved. Can you make it global? Please, RTD, help us out. And he does so many controversial things. I've just shown everybody the interview with Doctor Who magazine when he says, I'm dying to see a reaction. RTD, pull back. Even JNT said it wasn't about him. He tried to just showboat the show. It wasn't saying it's a JNT show. JNT wants to be in every scene. RTD is injecting himself into too much of this discourse. So yes, Paul Richards, how can RTD pretend to be so progressive and so right on if what he's doing is objectifying your black male lead? And I think that is problematic, to say the least. Bad decision. So many people. I mean, this is a wild thread, and I so appreciate this. I'll be up all night. Heather, it's like RTD is Napoleon, and this bi-generation Disney Who has been his Waterloo. Yeah. So now what happens, history lovers? Yeah, exactly. Sadako, good that you're still with us. I'm so glad I missed both the Sutek finale and the remix version of Pyramids of Mars. The puppets have made their Empire of Death parody. I'm just doing the final touches. Hopefully there's a few laughs in there. Wait till you see what I do with the tissue decompression eliminator. Oh, misses. I don't need an aubergine. So yeah, Dread Newt. Oh yeah, remember that I slapped my face a few times trying to crap on the doctor. I mean, yeah, I know. The Peter fan site, how awful is for telling Sarah, don't provoke me, when she joked about the mummy rapping on him, that it needed to be cut. I mean, that their dynamics were great, and there was hardly any patronizing or anything in it. Obviously, it was of its era to a degree, but they're quite enjoyable to watch today, aren't they? Paul Richards, RTD said the Doctor was now upbeat and looking forward. So why is he crying nearly every episode? He looks like somebody. I know I didn't understand that narratively. The 14th Doctor is parked because he's the troubled one, but actually he seems like he's had a chill pill. Meanwhile, the 15th Doctor says, I've already had my rehab. You don't look as though you have. You thumped a wall.
Get your money back.
Yeah, you suddenly forgot you had a friend who you'd promised their mum that you'd look after them, and suddenly you went, oh, I like him over there, and you started messing on with, can't you get you out of my head, with Carly Minogue in some spaceship, having some sort of alpha male kind of show-off fest, like two peacocks, saying who was better with a feather duster at cleaning around. Honestly, what was this show? I've never seen William Hartnell or Patrick Troughton or any of the Doctors saying, I'm good with a feather duster. We did see Peter Davison in the Five Doctors for a second dusting off the set, but that was to make the point we've got a new set. I don't think he had his Mr. Sheen out. Honestly, what are we saying? That the first gay Doctor is very good as a handyman around the house, as a housemaid or house? What is this? I call that slightly homophobic. You know, if you want to go down that road, you are not progressive, RTD. You're falling into so many bear traps. It's ridiculous. Just get off Earth. Get onto planet Zog and get on with it. And actually, we might not read into all the tea leaves of what you're doing, because a lot of it is leaves a lot to be desired. Your lack of redrafting. I mean, the Sutek was my great 50-year idea as a pubescent teenager who really, it was on the back of a post-it thing, wasn't it? Did you redraft it? Did you craft it? As everybody knows, on Wednesday nights when I normally do them, when I do a classic review, every time, whether it's horror, fan rock, mind warp, anything, where's Sutek? Because every story has been retconned by RTD's lack of thinking, lack of planning, lack of respect, wanton vandalism creatively. That's what's happened. David Harding, I'm glad you're all hanging around. I know I'm fired up tonight. There'll be panicking.
I think you're holding back too much. Let it out.
Yeah, I know.
You don't have high blood pressure, do you?
Please don't subscribe tonight. Just get me a doctor. Right. David Harding, a good doctor, not a dodgy doctor. Right. David Harding.
Not the doctor you're expecting.
Who would have thought that I'd missed the days when we rarely ever heard from Chris Chibnall? Oh, yeah. During his era. RTD can't stop sticking his foot in his mouth all the time. I think they've quieted him down slightly. Lee Smith has noticed I might be on fire. I'm on fire, baby. Oh, I'm sorry. I've got to do it like Shooty, don't I? I'm on fire, baby. They're going to really turn to the drink soon. I tell you what. And I tell you what, our Shooty doctor, hello. Are you panicking yet? Because we're angry, mate. Do you want to defend yourself? Oh, he's gobsmacked. Yeah, he needs a script. Right. So he'll be on, and blah, 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 blah. Right. Greg Smith, kids today are playing video games on social media. Who's buying into this streaming at midnight lark? I mean, I've been a teacher for 30 years. The kids, yes, will be on their iPhones doing what they want. But do you think at midnight they're really tuning into Doctor Who? Do you understand kids, RTD? Because I've taught kids, and I have to say, when they got into bother on iPhones and on the internet, it wasn't about watching a program. I'm just saying, RTD, some of us have actually taught kids, and they were teenagers, and they weren't talking about a TV program they're watching at midnight. I think you need to kind of recalibrate your strategic thinking. Paul Richards, that moment when Rose says non-binary several times had me laughing out loud. It had me crying out loud. Oh, was that supposed to be a clever line by RTD? David Harding, poor. Yes, I concur here. Poor Bonnie Lanford. She was on the show the first time when the ratings weren't great, and now she's back and the ratings are even worse. And we can definitely say, Bonnie, it's got nothing to do with you, because you're one of the highlights of the show. In fact, you were more of the Doctor than the Doctor, because in Empire of Death and in The Legend of Ruby Sunday, while he's just stood there going, I can't believe they've really vandalized Sutek so much. I don't recognize him. She was actually saying, away, I think there's something wrong with that woman on the stage. Away, here, I've got a Vespa. Away, get yourself together. Yeah. He was so much better.
She went very Burrow all of a sudden. Away, get on the back of this bike. Yeah, come on, Shooty. Grab your helmet, mate. Get on the back of this bike.
She was going down Parley Road. Go on. I know. I think it'd be much better, much grittier. The problem is RTD2 was
even Rogue was a better Doctor. You watched, yes. I watched that episode. Jonathan Groff, great actor, right? He is. Yeah. He's done all sorts of Mindhunter, that you name it. And you watched that, and I was like, oh god, he made a good Doctor. First American Doctor, I'll take that. Like he's good. I don't care where you are, who you're from, where you are, who you are, whatever. I don't care. Can you do the job? Yeah, you're in. There you go. He'd made a better one. Yeah, I don't know.
But you see, all those people who want it to continue, and I'm trying to be respectful to all the ways, but we've got to think carefully. We had Susan Twist. I mean, does that make sense? I keep thinking with every classic story since Pyramids of Mars, you need a Susan Twist avatar in the corner, because that was a story, remember?
What the hell was that?
Well, for you know, Sean, all he was doing with that Susan, it was a con trick to say for the whole season, and this is why none of us will rewatch it, because there weren't classic stories, but he was tricking us to say, basically, Susan Foreman might turn up. And it was just a con job. And he said in his latest SFX magazine article, he said he doesn't like to leave arcs unfinished at the end of the season. Well, the Susan one was. And the Mrs. Flood one was. So I'm sorry, you're breaking your own rules. Basically, as we said earlier, less is more. Stop talking all the time and start planning. I've got on the screen here the gods. And the gods are going to continue in season 2. The fantasy cul-de-sac or blind alley we're going down. Remember those who saying let's continue with the show? It's going to look so different. More's going to be retconned. It's the
How
damage will
weak is that? How weak is that lineup? That's like looking at your football team sheet and going, "What the hell's he thinking of?" Which I do regularly. But what? How weak? I don't even know what the Mara's from. Is that made up? I don't even remember that one.
Kinder
How
and Snake Dance. It's a classic.
how weak is that? How weak is that lineup if you put that against Moffat's, the Angels, the Silence, even Prisoner Zero? All
Yeah,
really
yeah.
that is really really weak. Really really like no. Oh, yeah, terrible. That's awful.
It's just we've got to recognize where is the show now. So even if we say continue or reboot or tinker with it, we are where we are, and we've had 2 fantasy seasons. We will have. The gods are all involved. It's like Q in Star Trek. I'm not into this. We've also got RTD, who believes that every show he writes, whether it's Doctor Who or something else, should be very 2024. And one of the worst things about watching any old TV is if it really has that sense of, oh yeah, this was made in 1976, and it feels like it was made in 1976. It's not the same as it was made in 1976, but it was pretending to be in 1989. It's a very different show. If he wants to bog Doctor Who down in just an era with all our political fads of now, he's going to kill it. He's going to kill it. And that's another reason why people wouldn't want to rewatch. But another reason why people might be turned off, and I'm talking about casual viewers, is I'm always writing about gay life in Manchester, politics in London, or nightlife in New York. I always want to make it look like today. I mean, if that's your strategy, mate, this is Doctor Who. This is escapism and bogging it down with political fads of now. I can't be put together.
It dates it terribly,
Yes.
terribly, and it, well, Richard E. Grant's already played him in that Comic Relief, which is a great episode to be fair. But yeah, it's Ron Atkinson, another good one. But Joanna Lumley, some great actors in there. Anyway, sorry, I'm to sidetrack myself. Yeah, there's no there's a time and a place to do these, and he's shown that. He is genuinely, has been one of the best writers we've ever seen in this country. Like, it's not. Oh, sorry, I mean he's Welsh, isn't he? But like UK, right? Like, it's not, and that's not an understatement. He's done some unbelievable series, and you just think, right, you can do those kind of stories, or do those kind of, I can't think of the word. You can do those causes, probably the wrong word, in different shows, like you can, and you've done it before.
Yeah.
But to try and get every single like facet of life now into Doctor Who, it's like, yeah, but where's the room for Doctor Who? Where's the room for decent start? Where's the room for everything else? The
Sean,
decent,
Sean,
yeah, sorry, mate.
No, I'm agreeing with you by saying in Star Beast he had the most ridiculous juxtaposition of thoughts. You had a big kind of meep beep the meep in somebody's TV lounge, and then you had a teenage trans character saying, "You, doctor, you don't know if you've got the right pronoun you're using." You brought down the political fad for some people in 2024 with an alien encounter. Can you imagine remaking ET now? ET suddenly has to do all this kind of, hold on a minute. You said he, Elliot. Excuse me, Elliot. Oh, by the way, Elliot might be, honestly, let's not get bogged down in all this nonsense. Now, I was going to show you something on the screen, but I also want to say hello to the Zero Room, which I've mentioned twice. We could jettison the Zero Room. I thought you were jettisoned you. If RTD can't see that a lot of queer people are annoyed with the progressive direction the show's taken, he's going to kill the show just to satisfy his own ego. And you've also got to remember, people get older. I had to be aware as a teacher that as you get older, you can't pretend to be right on with the kids. Don't even try. But when you get a 61-year-old man trying to be down with the kids, I think it always looks more problematic than if you just got on with it. Now, what I want to show on the screen is, this is the man we want you to continue, whose great idea, this was from the SFX magazine, said to get the classic fans back, to get those fans who haven't enjoyed the Geordie era. He had this great idea to bring Sutek back. And you can see what I've highlighted in blue. Those people who said the show's not for me now, I've moved away from Doctor Who. Oh my God, Sutek, I'll come back. Surely there will then be some pickup. Surely some people will come and look because Sutek's back and because it's voiced by Gabriel Wolf. So that was a very deliberate
But
policy.
who cares if you're after the young? It's too juxtaposed. It's too contradictory ideas. And sorry for the big words. It's two stupid ideas that are battering against you that aren't going to work. You can't go for a brand new audience and hope a couple of the oldies will tag along, and then at the same time think, well, don't worry, everyone. What will really get the kids in or the young audiences? I'm bringing Sutek back, somebody from 50 odd years ago, however long it was, voiced by somebody never bloody heard of. That'll get
Yep,
him in. It's like what?
yep,
What? I'd love to sit opposite him and say, what was your idea? Because I've no doubt he'd have a bloody intelligent answer. I hope to say, look, what was your idea behind this? How did you think it would work? And what's gone wrong between how you thought it would work and the reality of the situation? Is it that you're too far away from the feel around
yep.
the show and you thought it had just been a couple of rocky years? No, I don't think you understand the animosity is the wrong word. I don't think you understand that massive disconnect that people have. That most people have walked away. We're down to dregs now. Like this is the dregs of
Yeah.
the pint.
And and
It
and, and
really
we're
is.
able, and because it's been allowed to be a continuous, a show of continuity, rather than some in our poll have said, start again, disconnect, cauterize, amputate, get rid of the infestation, move on, fresh. And in future, don't say the doctor is number 10, 12, 22. Just it's the doctor in a TARDIS in space. That's all we need to know. Now, Paul Richard here says the doctor was scared of Maestro and crying. I know. Look, the doctor has run away from people before, and I liked Plans of the Daleks because he ran down a corridor away from the Daleks. This happens in Genesis. He runs away from the Daleks and nearly gets hit at the end. But he said it reminds him of the Bad Generation. But when that happened, he wasn't traumatized. He was overjoyed. Inconsistent writing. I don't think, I'll be honest with you, I'm not really liking the Ncuti era at the moment. It is only, well, it's about 7 episodes, Christmas specials, 6 episodes, and 2 Dr. Lights. But if you really do think about it, he hasn't been given testy stuff. They're all proud of Dot and Bubble at the end that he was given this line so he could spit it out and shout at white supremacists and say, do you know what? You're really bad people, so I'm going to give you a planet. I didn't understand that concept. Ncuti, yes, he shouted it, spat it out, and slobbered it out. But I didn't actually understand the dialogue at all. Why was our doctor so moral? Think of the John Pertwee doctor. He tells everybody off. And suddenly he's going, right, you little white supremacist, little ageist, youngsters, do you know what? I'm going to reward your hatred and your discriminatory bigotry behavior by giving you a brand new, fresh planet to colonize. How was that award-winning writing? So Shooty's given some absolute crap to try and act. I don't think he delivers it in any shape or form. We're too obsessed under RTD with whether Ruby Sunday has found her man. We're too bothered about other people. We're too bothered about whether Mel and poor Mel, Bonnie Lanford, the mad auntie. Why do that to her? But anyway, we're too bothered about other people rather than saying, is this new doctor established? We all know what happened to poor Colin Baker with Twin Dilemma. Making him go through this erratic behavior when he was attacking his companion, he never could get away from. And it wasn't the actor's fault. It was just, why write that? How is Ncuti going to get away from crying and all the rest of it? I just can't see how you can do it.
It's just, do you know what one of the main problems with the show as well is it's when like when you go to work on a morning, on a Monday or
Yeah.
you meet your friends if you're retired, and you say, oh, what have you been watching over the weekend? Because I don't know about anybody else around the world, but us Northerners love to talk about the telly, right? And the odd book, and we say, oh, what have you watched? What have you watched over the weekend? Oh, I've been in the match, bloody awful, and I've. Oh, I watched Doctor Who. Oh, yeah, what was that about? Oh, it was a cracker an episode there. The people are in these bubbles and they don't know how to walk, and there's these weird slug things, and they're all one color. Oh, I don't know. It's to try and describe the episodes. It comes across like you're taking the mick, like you're
Yeah.
making it up, like you've got a book a kid's book and you're just trying to desperately remember what it is. And that's never a good thing. And yeah, if I sat here and wanted to describe, even like Slytherins in Downing Street, that episode, that you can at least give it a decent go and say, or Fear Her, which isn't a favorite of mine. You could still sit there and say, oh yeah, you could describe it and it comes across as serious. Now it just comes across as like, I don't think you could write a farce of Doctor Who any worse. I genuinely don't think you could. I think it's at that level of.
Oh no! I mean, Donald
I
Cotton's
don't know
Roman.
how I don't know how we've got here. I genuinely
Well,
thought I thought RTD would come back, and I didn't think it'd be perfect.
I've actually said for quite a while in some of my streams, if everyone goes back to my one about the BBC being negligent with Doctor Who, I know why, Sean, because the BBC doesn't understand Doctor Who. It never has. It knows that it's on on a gold mine now, but it doesn't know why. It's never understood Doctor Who. So when they see RTD saying he's a super fan and being quite cocky and confident and having had a successful first time as showrunner, they'll throw it at him and say, do something with it. What, you've turned the Doctor into a gay. Right, you've done that now. Oh, Sutek's now that. They don't care. They don't care. So I've got on the screen here for everybody, because those who think this show can just limp on, remember what you can see on the screen there. Does this show join up? Look at how it started with the Aztecs up there. And now think of Rogue and the romance there, or the sexualization of the Doctor. Think of all the nonsense about the Jodie and Yaz stuff. Which they were desperately trying to do for some reason. Think of the Doctor Who movie with Paul McGann and the two kisses. Remember, in the Radio Times, Paul McGann recently said the Doctor is asexual. Even he is standing up saying the Doctor shouldn't be going there. But because the Doctor has, roughly on and off since 2005, there's 2 decades where people will say, well, the Doctor gets all mixed up with all this, that, and the other now. It's like some sort of sex romp. It's not Doctor Who. Now, Babbitt Bombshell says, I very much suspect that in Series 2, we will learn that Sutek was copied along with Tennant's TARDIS. David's Doctor will die fighting Sutek. I don't know, I could half buy into this at the moment. RTD will double down on his own bad idea. I know.
Well, it won't be a heroic death. I'll tell you that. He'll die pathetically as a kind of, oh yeah, this Doctor that you really like, even though this new generation's terrible. Yeah, he's going to die pathetically without any kind of pride. Probably be pointless. Probably someone will probably come along and laugh at him for it later on. It'll be absolutely pathetic, and it'll be the worst thing you can imagine. Like literally, try and come up with the worst on purpose idea of how pathetically he could die, and times it by 10. And I hope I'm being cynical, but probably.
Yeah. Well, the reason I've got this on the screen is Ncuti getting confused about whether it's getting commissioned. The rumors about, well, when are we going to hear from Disney if we are? Can we survive without Disney? Well, of course it can, really. It just reminds me of that period in the mid-80s when the show had been axed, the rumors behind the scenes, Eric Seaward not getting on with JNT, Robert Holmes dying when he was writing the blooming Trial of a Time Lord. The whole thing was a blooming mess. And I feel as though we just go in there again. We come into this era again in a different way. But when it's been done once, second time round, people get a bit angry. I saw on for Verity Lambert having that integrity and creativity and her passion at the beginning to take risks. I so miss that. I so miss somebody being a proper pioneer. I so miss JNT's enthusiasm. Yes, I didn't like the question marks on the collars and all the rest of it, but I miss his enthusiasm and his almost one-man show to keep the Doctor Who on the telly. I miss recognizable doctors. I really do. I miss great partnerships. Barry Letts and Terence Dicks, Philip Hinchcliffe and Robert Holmes. I miss that. I think we need that. And remember what I said earlier. Well, look, sorry, I'm not going to say a word. Look at the comparison there. Take your pick. There's the future. There's the past of Doctor Who. Which is your choice out of those two? And, when you see photographs like this, you think this show looks so far away. And yet it was just a wanderer in the 4th dimension. And when we look back at stuff like the Daleks, where really Doctor Who totally took off, I still contest it is possible that just like the Doctor Who movies did a cover version in colour, ramped up with the budget of the same story, it didn't kill our love of the William Hartnell story. In fact, it made us want to watch it. I don't think doing a cover version of Doctor Who just to get people excited again, instead of relying them going on to iPlayer, just get the kids and the young generation with a dark, suspenseful Doctor Who, big budget, say with the Paul McGann actor and some of the best stories. And you could just revive it all that way. I don't think that is as bad as it might sound. Sean, what do you reckon?
Is anybody else really, really depressed? That's really that like obviously I'm not as up with I mean I'm getting there with classic Who, but looking at all that and yeah, Peter, you're right, it is. Looking at all that, you think, oh, and I think this feeling is around for I mean, I can't speak for I think it's around with more people than we'd like. This
Yeah.
feeling that, across films and TV and
Yes.
most of the classic things, there's such a feeling of like just decay. Like it feels like we're absolutely bankrupt of any creativity, any ability to come up with anything original, any ability to take older properties and go in a good direction with them. The fans seem to have loads of decent ideas. You can go on the YouTube channel and go on a
Yeah.
comment and go, oh, I'd love to see that. I'd love to see this. It feels like all the good stuff. I'm depressing it now. Feels like a lot of the good stuff is in, and this is in the past, and this isn't a nostalgia thing. I have no nostalgia whatsoever for classic Doctor Who. I wasn't alive. Watching it back and rediscovering it and watching it and watching shows for the sense sphere and watching them for some others, and watching, I watched the Pyramids of Mars for the first time only a couple of months ago. That whole, and you watch them and you think, oh my god, that was brilliant. The
Yeah.
limitations, but the
Yeah.
the kind of the dialogue, watching Remembrance of the Daleks for the first time, and there's a brilliant moment in that where the Doctor talks to a cafe owner about and a little bit around an issue of slavery, and that was that was a brilliant scene, and they allude to because obviously they go back in time and it's
So
marvelous stuff, and it makes you wonder when we're going to get that back, but unfortunately, I think we're in for
I
a long haul because I don't know when
the
it's going to
the
come back round.
the truth is there is a dearth of quality sci-fi writers. Where are they? Where are they? Are they?
There's a dearth of quality writers spreading across the board, I think.
Well, this is it because people now are getting jobs by ticking boxes. The publishing does this as well. If I said I had a novel about my life, as if, no publisher will pick it up because I'm not hitting the tick list. That's what's happening at the moment. You look at who's writing the new Target novelizations. Just take a look if you don't mind, and you'll see what I mean. So the writers who are selected to write Doctor Who aren't there for their science fiction concept writing. They're there for something else. And there you hit the problem. And that's when Doctor Who hits the buffers. Because when you've got a showrunner who's trying to grandstand about, I want to show you Canal Street, I want to show you New York and gay life. And yeah, you've done Queer as Folk. Well done. You've done It's a Sin. But this is Doctor Who. This is actually, in a way, it's a bigger show. And it's the only one that's
Yeah.
not your show, RTD.
It's about a time traveling alien. If you can't do Doctor Who anymore, if your life's changed, if your perspective things have changed, and you can't do it in a nuanced way you used to be able to. And I know for some people, calling RTD Era 1 nuanced is a bit strong. I do enjoy it. If you can't do it anymore, just move on. Do a show in something else. Don't continue. Oh god, I mean it's done now. We've got another series to dredge, so haven't we?
I know. And as I say, she's got a new plan, creative here. Companion takes the TARDIS back to the first time we saw the toy maker, kills the toy maker, and instantly the whole modern story changes. Divine and Dragon's got loads. Go back to our thread on with Divine and Dragon when we tried to come up with some great solutions that actually respected most of canon. Now, you can't do it all. The Zero Room, who still hasn't been jettisoned, I hate to say it, but we got some good years from Eccleston, Tennant and Capaldi, but it's going down just like it did in the 80s, who will be gone soon. So as you see that, we started 2 hours ago with Those who voted for cancel, rest, reboot, continue. We've argued the toss. I think I've been quite nuanced and subtle. I've been, I think, quite clear. My conclusion, if I have to say, and it is a conclusion I'm warming to in the end, is it needs to stop. It needs time away when people have forgotten, because too many people I know who are casual viewers are saying, oh, it's full of that woke stuff. Now, whether that's good or bad, folks, we're losing viewers because they see Doctor Who as some bandwagon for some political messaging. No, people used to say, oh, Doctor Who, that's the show that scares the kids, or that's the show with the Daleks in. Now they don't say that. They now think it's some sort of political bandwagon. So there's a misstep by RTD and the crew. It needs to be forgotten for a little while. I don't think the wilderness years are going to be as great as they were in the 90s. I don't know. Who am I to say? But what I say is there's two options. As time is the healer, think of that TARDIS with the weeds growing up it. How many times have we seen the dead TARDIS? You know, that's overdone now. But, you know, the TARDIS is now ignored for a few years. It's in our heads. Our nostalgia builds. We forget certain episodes. Casual view as well. And, you know, oh, yeah, that show, the TARDIS. People will remember the main bedrocks of the show again. The Daleks, the Doctor, the TARDIS, blah, blah, blah. They'll remember those bits again. And the Timeless Children thing might just kind of, you know, erode away. But how many more series can we do with all these things being added? So I say rest it, give it a fair few years. Most of the people who wrote to me said 10 to 12 years, if we can cope with that. But maybe in the 10 to 12 years when it's off making new Who, you could get somebody like Paul McGann while he's in his peak still. It's just a suggestion. And he makes some stories from classic Who. Now, there's two options. The brilliant stories, but that might kind of really challenge your great memories. Or you pick some of the underdogs of the past. You know, would you like to see a Meglos made again, maybe with a big budget? Those stories, Warriors Gate. Can you imagine Warriors Gate now? It's a good story in the first place, but can you imagine that done to scale? I know it's a Tom Baker, but we've got to live with it. And Tom Baker's always going to be there. It's not disrespecting him. It's kind of ramping up the great story by Gallagher. Yeah. So anyway, that's, I think, the conclusion I'm coming to. Or completely amputate it from now on, and you just have a Doctor in the future, no regeneration. Let's get rid of that gold dust rubbish. No more regenerations, but the Doctor does die, you know, but you don't have to see it. He could die in the TARDIS, but you're outside with the camera. You know, you don't have to show all that nonsense anymore. It's too melodramatic, maybe. And you just have a Doctor, you don't know what number they are, and they do what the Doctor used to do and get rid of all the baggage. How about that? What's the votes in the thread then? Would you go with that idea or no? It's a yes or a no, one or the other. Yes, you think we should stop and try one of these new ideas, or no? Yes or no? Give us that kind of thought now and we'll get an idea from it. Let's have a look. And I'll just kind of mop up while we're waiting for any yeses or nos. Heather, we need movie and spoof-filled wilderness years. Paul and David are agreeing with each other, a darker, more creepy version. When was the last time we had a Doctor Who that scared the kids and had them talking at school? I can't remember it. People are saying the James Bond approach. Divine and Dragon saying the James Bond approach. Now, the last James Bond died, didn't he?
Oh, don't.
I know. That ruined it. I think I know what you mean, Divine and Dragon. What you're saying is the actors changed, but
Back
you never
to basics.
thought.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I agree. A lot of people are saying yes, and a lot of people, and some people are saying no. So, you know, I mean, we are fans after all. We'll never agree, but I do think what's being said by that poll is 59% are not happy, and I think we'll take that as right. So something has to happen. Sean, you've been a star tonight to come on late on and be my kind of sidekick and be interrupted and harried and everything. But thanks for coming on. Is that all right?
Yeah, absolute pleasure, mate. I need, you know, it's getting cold now, though. So I need to decide if there's going to be another series of Doctor Who after the second, because if there is, I need to be in and out that door touching grass. I can't believe we forgot the touching grass. That's a classic.
Yeah.
I love it.
So everybody, this is the sense free. If you've just seen us now, You'll see we do Sunday shows. We often do a midweek one. I'll be doing a Doctor Who detox on Friday, midday UK time when we have a detox. I need it. That Jack Daniels will be knocked back. So thanks for joining us. Hopefully we've given you some entertainment and we've been authentic and truthful and not grifting. Every word I've said tonight, I mean, and you'll always get that on the sense for you. But we try and be thoughtful about it. We try and be respectful of everybody's opinion. And I haven't dissed anybody's opinion, but you've definitely had mine and you've definitely had Sean's. And I think that's the only way we can go as fans. So thank you for joining tonight. I've really enjoyed it. Whoa, there you go. That was our Sense for You Live. Thanks for joining us. Give us a like, give us a subscription. It'll cheer me up. Anyway, good night, everyone. And good night, Sean.
Night, mate. Night, everyone.
Like and subscribe.